theyeshiva.net.
Page 187, it says Tzadik Daled on the top, Tzadik Daled, the second column, Tzadik Daled Amud Beis, the second column on top, the word starts Vihine, or page 187. 187 on top, Megillah Esther. It doesn't say 187, 186 is the previous page, so you know it's 187. In the opening of this Maimer, which began with the words Vayoshet Hamelech LaEsther as Sharvet HaZahav, the second time that the king stretches out his golden scepter to Esther, he addresses the question why the first time around Esther only touches the point of the scepter. The second time around, when she comes to the king, actually, he gives her the entire scepter. For this he introduces the concept of Esther, which comes from the word Hester. The Gemara says in Maseches Chulin, Esther min ha-Torah minayin, shenemar anochi Aster paneh bayom hahu. I will conceal my face, which is basically a euphemism, a metaphor, for the Jewish soul when it is in a state of concealment. Every individual person has moments when his natural fire, when the inner love that he has to Hashem, when the inner passion and craving that he has, even though he certainly has it, it is concealed. That's called a state of Esther. He says there's no question that it's always there. There's no question that the fire is always burning and the love is always there. But to reveal it is a process. When Mashiach comes, he says, and the world and the human being is going to be refined, then it says, V'ro kol basar. V'nigla kvoid Hashem v'ro kol basar. Everything will be revealed. V'amar bayom hahu hine lekenu zeh. Instead of bayom hahu, that day it will be hine lekenu zeh. Marabetz boy v'aymer zeh. In a revealed space. To explain this, he went in to discuss the fact that Chazal say, the Medrash says that all the Yom Tovim will be nullified besides Purim and besides Halachas. What is the meaning of this? Why will Purim not be nullified after the Geula in contrast to all other holidays? And the uniqueness of Halachas as well, which says Halachas won't be nullified, also La'asid Lava. So for this he started to explain that on Shabbos and Yom Tov, it's the time when all the olamas go up and all the sparks go up. There's a light that gets revealed in the world at that time of the year, whether it's a Shabbos, whether it's a Yom Tov, every Yom Tov according to its own energy and its own unique calling. And the Jewish soul, the Jewish spark feels, it detects the light and it adds, therefore, to the soul light and joy and celebration, and the soul gets on fire to connect to Hashem in a deeper way because of the energy that comes out. For example, Pesach, he says, there's a unique Ava that comes out. And as a result of that, it elevates all the souls and it inspires in them in return a tremendous Ava, and therefore a commitment to get rid of all that which obstructs the Ava, which doesn't allow you to feel the Ava. In order to be able to experience the Chesed in the Olam, that's his title, to experience his Chesed in the Olam, you need to be able to make sure that the Mitzrayim is struck inside of you. And for this, he starts explaining the process of the aliyah of a nitzutz, the aliyah of a neshama, whether it's on Shabbos, whether it's on Yom Tov, whether it's on a Pesach, whenever it is in a holy day, what is this aliyah? And it goes through a whole process. He goes through the many stages that are defined in the Pasuk and Shir Hashirim, which basically describes the tremendous love. Al mishkavi ba'leilois bikashti sha'ahav nafshi. Achasti v'lo yarpenu. I hold on to the one that I love and I don't leave go of him. Hishbati eschem b'nois Yerushalayim ta'iru v'im ta'iru esav. It's all a chapter that deals with love, but then suddenly the Pasuk goes on to start describing the process of ascending from the desert. Mizois oilam in amidbar kesimrois ashan mikuteres moir ulevayna mikol afgas roichel. You remember, who is it that comes up from the desert like pillars of smoke, incensed with myrrh and with frankincense, all of the powders of the one who makes the perfume. And he says that this basically represents the process of the aliyah, of an ascent of the neshama. The first thing is, there is heavy smoke. There is heavy smoke because whenever you're confronting and burning things in your life that really have to be eliminated, the resistance will create heavy pillars of smoke. That's the first step to get out of your desert, which represents a space of desolateness, or a place of dvarim betelim. Then there is the thinner smoke, the more subtle smoke, represented by the cloud, which represents confronting things that are less brute. And then there's Moir, which is the idea of mirirus, the ability to be able to be frustrated from things that you're allergic to. And then there is the Levoina, the ability to really be joyous and celebrate. And then this Kol Afkas Roichel, every soul is turned on by something else. Every person's experience of his slavos is a different experience. This is why in the Megillah, every girl before she comes to the king has to go through Shisha Chadashim B'Shemen HaMoir, 6 months in the oil of Moir, and 6 months in with incense and with the perfume of the women. So he says spiritually it means that every neshama has its time. When it's summoned to the king, every soul has its time, its period that it comes to the king. But in order to be able to really come in order to really be able to enter, you need the 6 months, b'shemen amor, the wisdom of mirirus, the wisdom of understanding what to be frustrated about, what not to be frustrated about, the wisdom to understand what should bother you, what should not bother you, the wisdom to understand what's wrong and what's not wrong, what's your fault, what's not your fault. There's a lot of wisdom in this, maybe one of the deepest wisdoms in life, when to blame yourself, when not to blame yourself, right? When you're projecting somebody else's issues, when it's your own issues, when you have to take responsibility, when you don't have to take responsibility, when something is serious, when something is not serious.
How does that theme connect with Afkas Rochel?
That's before Afkas Rochel. Shisha Chadasha B'Shemen HaMoir, it's basically the Chachma. Shemen has to do with Chachma, to be able to be B'Bchinas Mirirus. It takes a lot of wisdom to be able to be frustrated by certain things.
And then you find yourself in your Afkas Rochel.
That's the Moir. And then there's the Levoina, which is the Simcha. Right? And then there's the Afkas Rochel, which is the different types of Hislavus and of every single Jew. So Shisha Chadashim B'Shemen HaMoir and Shisha Chadashim B'Psamim U'V'Samrukei HaNoshim U'B'Zeh HaNayir Ba'al HaMelech. V'hinei kol minei aliyas v'iskarvus Knesset Yisrael HaKadosh Baruch Hu B'Shabbos V'Yom Tov. All the types of aliyas, any type of aliyah, any type of ascent, and every type of kiruv, of closeness, of Knesset Yisrael, of the gathering of the Jewish souls to Hashem on Shabbos or Yom Tov, which is the time when the souls and the sparks and the worlds go up. And as much as they climb higher and higher and higher to the highest of heights, which is what we described. You want to get out of the desert. Now the pasuk is basically a description of life. You want to get out of the desert. There's the thick smoke, there's the thin smoke, there is the mirirus, there is the levoina, there is the powder, there is the shemen hamor, there is the psamim, there's tamrukei anoshim. All these aliyahs, higher and higher and higher, nikra b'shem negia b'rosh hasharvet. It's always defined by ultimately one title, and that is you're touching the point of the scepter. There's a scepter, there's a sharvet, the staff of the king, and there's negia b'rosh hasharvet. This soul went higher and higher and higher. Adiroim hamaylas, to the highest of heights. It's considered, it's still titled touching the edge of the scepter, the Rosh HaSharvet. Ki sharvit hazav hu hamshachas eirin soif baruch hu. The scepter of gold represents really the flow of the infinite energy of Hashem. Just like the king is holding a scepter, and he stretches out the scepter, which basically is a continuum of his presence. He's sitting on the throne, but the stick, the scepter, continues his presence and allows the person to touch it. So the Sharvit Hazav, spiritually speaking, is Hamshachas Eirein Sof Baruch Hu. So to speak, the flow of energy that comes from the infinite. V'hu chiyus kol ha'olam v'salyayna v'tachtayna. And this is essentially the life force of all the worlds, the highest and the lowest. It's all the chiyus of Ein Sof, the energy of the Ein Sof, which is the golden scepter. And he says, this is the pshat in the pasuk, Amay Shekasuv. It's amazing. As Sharvet Hazav v'chaya. The Sharvet Hazav is what gives chayas. Esther, literally it means Esther says, what's the lashon of Esther? She says, "Ani lo nikresi al Hamelech ze shloshim yoyim." I haven't been summoned by the king for 30 days. Yeah, and the klal is that in order to be able to live and not die, achas dasi lahamis, he has to stretch out his scepter of gold. V'ani lo nikresi, and I wasn't called ze shloshim yoyim. So the way she says it to Mordechai, what does she say? Achas dase lahamis, you go in, you're going to die. Levad me'asher yoshet le Hamelech sharvet hazav v'chaya. Unless if the Melech stretches out his golden scepter and you live. Why? Because they won't kill you, because he gave you permission to come in. So he teaches, al pisoi, the sharvet hazav v'chaya. All the chiyus comes from the sharvet hazav. It comes from all the chiyus, all the vitality, the life force of all the oilamus, el yoinim and tachtoinim. It all comes from the sharvet hazav. From the flow, from the hamshacha of the Ein Sof, the light of the Ein Sof. The Ein Yechol Malas V'Lidus L'Kabel Chiyusim Mikol HaSharvit. Rak HaSharvit Nishar B'Yodei V'Rak HaOr Magia Le'Berosh HaSharvit. That's why it says by Esther, Vatiga B'Rosh HaSharvit. What's Pshat B'Rosh HaSharvit? Vatikra of Esther, Vatiga B'Rosh, she touches the point of the scepter. Because she can't go up and see and receive vitality from the entire Sharvit. The scepter remains in the hand of the king. But there's a ray that goes to her, that touches her B'Rosh HaSharvit, at the edge. She can't get the chiyus of the whole Sharvit. Because the etzem HaSharvit, the Sharvit itself, as we will see in a moment, remains aloof. It remains in the king's hand. What she does get is the lowest edge of the scepter, the part of it that's the most distant from the king. That is what reaches Esther. That's what reaches Knesset Yisrael. That was the opening sentence of this chapter. Here in this Maimer, where he says that all the aliyahs of all the neshamas to the highest places, it's always vatiga b'rosh hasharvit. You're always touching the lowest end, the bottom end of the scepter. This light that comes through in the Rosh Hasharvit, Hibchines Ava Aza, Kirishve Eish V'Shalheves Ha'oila L'mayla, Zahava Elyon Zahav Atnufa. This is why it's called Sharvit HaZahav. Generally, in Kabbalah, every type of fabric, material, represents a certain energy. Zahav is the color of fire. So it represents a fiery love. Ava Aza Kirishve Eish. A strong, intense, fiery love. Ashalheves, it's a flame. Ha'oila L'mayla, just like fire. It goes upwards. Zahav ha'elyon. This is what we mean by Zahav ha'elyon, the higher type of love. So love represents gvura, it represents eish. It's not an ava of kesef. Kesef is ava, but it's a different type of ava. It's ava kamayim. That's a silver-like love. Nichsoif nichsafta lebeis avicha. That's from the word kesef. Zahav is fiery because it represents a love that is very, very passionate, in the sense like fire, which is extremely hot and extremely intense. So this is this type of ava, Zahav Elyon, and he calls it Zahav Tnufa. Zahav Tnufa, of course, is an expression that's used in Parshas Pekudei about the Zahav that was lifted up and brought to the Beis HaMikdash. He's teaching here, what's Zahav Tnufa? Zahav Tnufa is the Zahav that lifts somebody up. Zahav Tnufa, it lifts somebody up to Hashem. So when a person feels this sharvit, there's a certain flow of life that he experiences from the Ein Sof, and that it expresses itself in a love. But in this sharvit, you have two elements. You have the sharvit itself, and you have katseyu hatachton, the rosh hasharvit, the edge, the lowest edge. So he says, katseyu hatachton, the lowest edge of this sharvit hazav, the part that you're touching, who represents ksha'ava azazu. When this intense love, by era, it burns. Umislaheves, it fires up. It glows. When a person is mindful of the truth of the Ein Sof, blessed be He, in terms of Memalik Kalalman and V'Sof of Kalalman. When he appreciates, when he becomes mindful of Memalik Kalalman, the fact that he fills the worlds, and Seivav Kalaman, the fact that he transcends the worlds. That's Katseu HaTachton. And then there is Katseu HaElyon, touching the other side of the scepter, the side that's near the king.
It seems like there's serious nefesh that she has to do, not just like through the to get that. He's just on his own, Hashem on his own, the king of his own will, decides to extend his hand.
Yeah, well, in the literal story, Esther was risking her life. In the spiritual story, he's describing here the neshama coming up to the king after the psamim and the shemen hamoir and the samruke anoshim and everything he spoke before. So when you come, what are you touching? You're touching the end of the scepter. What makes it the end? He says there's a strong love, there's a strong zahav here. Right? The person becomes aware of the divine energy, and that fires up the soul. With a craving, with a yearning, with a fiery passion to the Ein Sof. That's why it's not silver, it's gold. As we said, there's the love that's like water, and there's the love like fire. Love like water is a much calmer love. A love like fire is a much more passionate love, and it's a love that shatters. You know the difference of the love? Huh?
Just barely.
Yeah, basically fire breaks up everything that comes into it. Nothing can go into fire and remain intact, right? Water, on the contrary, water is an adhesive substance. It connects things, yeah? We use saliva or other forms of water to connect. Fire is mavdil. Fire disintegrates. You put something in fire, it right away separates it and always reduces it to its most essential qualities. It basically leaves ashes.
On the other hand, you have gold that only through fire you can see.
Right. Huh?
Fire can melt together things so.
But first it melts. The first thing the fire has to do is you got to have a meltdown. Huh? Always. There's a meltdown. Fire first melts. There's two types of love. There's a love in which you remain completely intact. It's a colder love. It's an ava kamayim. There's an ava ka'esh, which is very, very fiery. It's very, very intense. And yes, it shatters you. You're not the same person. The love redefines you. Like all types of fire, it could be very dangerous and it could be very ennobling. Right? It's always the question. It's always a question of what type of love, what's the nature of the love inside of you, what it's directed to, whom it's directed to. If it's basically escaping yourself because you don't like yourself. What was the expression you said yesterday? Do you love because, could you say that expression? Or the other way? Do you love to be needed or do you need to be loved? So sometimes when a person really despises themselves, they have to melt away and be accepted by somebody else because that's the only way they can experience their identity. And then it could become a very dangerous ava ka'esh because you're completely lost in the process. So that's why ava always has to have the balance between silver and gold. Ava kamayim and ava ka'esh. An ava in which you retain your identity, and then you're capable of an ava in which you lose your identity. Now zahav is more expensive than kesef. Zahav is more expensive than kesef. It's a much deeper, more intense love. So when he says here, the sharvet hazav is that the soul experiences the chiyus of the Ein Sof, and therefore it has a, so to speak, a certain meltdown. Zahava tnufa, the person gets uplifted in the ava. But this is all vatiga beroish hasharvet. It's katseu atachlein. It's the bottom edge. It's the lowest end of the sharvet, of the scepter. Why? Not because it's a small thing, because a person is mindful of two things, either Hamelech kalalman and Seivav kalalman, which generally speaking, as we discussed this in a few Maimarim previously, Hamelech kalalman represents the divine energy that fills the worlds. What do we mean it fills the worlds? Fills the worlds is a metaphor, it's a euphemism. It's the divine energy that is basically, it constitutes, anybody wants to define Hamelech kalalman?
It's tailor-made for the person.
It's tailor-made for the person, that's true.
The energy
You take the energy
that
and use
drives
it.
every foot beat. The energy that uniquely drives every
Right.
being.
It's the energy
Accessible.
accessible, and I think the key definition is the energy that constitutes the individual identity of every creature. And every creature has its own identity. The Yerushalmi says you don't have two stalks of wheat that are identical to each other. Two stalks of wheat have a distinct identity. Never mind animals, never mind human beings. So each identity is unique. Of course, there are common denominators as well. But what drives the unique function, utility, purpose, and essence of every nivra, that is basically a product of Mamalek Halam. We say the water fills the cup. The chiyus fills the person. It fills the universe. What do we mean it fills the universe? It's that which we can identify. This is my I. This is me. Yes, the me itself has many layers, and sometimes I can divorce the I from the divine. But Mamalek Halam means when you recognize that the true I is a reflection of Mamalek Halam. What's Soivav Kalalman? Soivav Kalalman is the light that transcends the universes. Soivav literally means surrounds. It's the infinite light, which is also in the world, and it impacts it. But it's one that you can't relate to on your terms. Why? Because it's not custom made to the unique individual chemistry of the creation. So even though Soivav Kalalman impacts the worlds and gives vitality to the worlds, but there's a certain aloofness, there's a certain sublimity. It's like forces that exist in me unconsciously, and they still drive me, and they may drive me more than everything else. Sometimes most of our behavior is a product of our unconscious, not of our conscious. But yet, I can't identify it and point to it and say this is me, because it's beyond. It's higher, it's more lofty, it's more sublime. This is called Soivav Kalalman. When a person becomes mindful of Elikus, either as Mamale or Soivav or both, each one of them creates a tremendous sense of closeness and tremendous sense of love. That's Katseyu HaTachta. The Katseyu Elyanu, the higher Katse is Kishamislahevis or Mislahetis Meis Bainanusoi B'muhusei V'atzmusei Yizbarach. When the soul gets fired up from being mindful of his essence. V'leis machshava tfisa beiklal. No thought grasps him at all. It's an expression of the Zohar. Leis machshava tfisa beiklal. No thought can grasp him at all. V'loi shayich beiloshin gedula. You can't even use the word gedula. Before he said his bainanusay bigdulas. Gdulas means it's great, it's gigantic, it's amazing, it's unbelievable. It's like wow. Here you don't even use the word gedula. Not Mamalek Kalalman, not that he fills the worlds. Not Soivav Kalalman, not even that he encompasses the worlds. So the Katzei Ha'elyon of the Scepter is the love when a person starts reflecting on what he calls Muhusay V'atzmusay, his core and his essence. Even beyond Soivav Kalalman, and there you can't speak even about Gadlus Hashem. You don't speak about the greatness of Hashem. Rak al ha'orev ha'amshachas ha'chiyus memenu yizbarach shayich loima mamali v'soivav. On the energy that flows from him, which is a ray, a ha'ara, a ziv, a glimmer, you could say it's mamale, you could say it's soivav, aval ligdula soy. He puts in the word in the pasuk dafka, aval ligdula soy dafka, ein cheker ksiv. We say in Ashrei, Gadol Hashem umuhul u'miyoid, ligdula soy ein cheker. So usually, if you're thinking about the pasuk, you interpret it as one sentence. God is great, and He's extolled excessively, and His godless cannot be researched. Ein cheker. There's no inquiry that will ultimately lead you to the godless. Says the Balatani, it's actually two parts. The pasuk is talking about two different things. Gadol Hashem u'muhul u'miyoid. Period. V'ligdula sai ein cheker. What's pshat? Pirush. The leishayich klal lachker v'lizboinen b'gdulasa. It's impossible even to start researching and contemplating His greatness. L'gdulasai eichu gadol ma'od, that He's great, u'mohulol, and praised. Ela b'shem havaya baruch hu. Only when you're talking about the name of Yud Kei Vav Kei, Shem Havaya. Hamoir al amshachas achiyus la'olamus. Because Yud Kei Vav Kei already represents that there's a flow of energy that's coming to the worlds. So in Shem Havaya Yud Kei Vav Kei, I could say Gadol Hashem, Gadol Yud Kei Vav Kei, u'muhulol miyoid. Still, it's Gadol, it's muhulol miyoid. He doesn't mean here that you master it and you fully understand it. But I could use the word gadol. I could use the word mehulo. Aval kamei mamish. If I'm talking about ligdula soy, his own true, his own, not gadol Hashem. Yudke vavke. Ligdula soy. Kamei mamish. In his presence mamish. Keloi mamish chashivu uki'ilu ein sham olam es klal. With the word ki'ilu. If I'm talking about kamei mamish, then keloi mamish chashivu. Then keloi mamish chashivu is an expression of a pasuk in Daniel Perek Dalet. He's just using that form, that expression which he uses often in the Maimarim. Keloi mamish chashivu. It's like, it's not. Keloi mamish chashivu. It's literally like not existing. Ki'ilu ein sham olam es klal. It's as though there's no worlds. As though there are worlds, but it's as though there's no worlds. In his presence, kamei in front of him. Kamei in front of him in his presence. Kamei shekasav, on this the pasuk says in Malachi, Ani Hashem lo shonisi. I haven't changed. So literally it means I haven't changed. In other words, I'm still around. He teaches Ani Hashem lo shonisi as a result of creation. Or we say in the morning before davening in the karbonos, Va'atu koidim shenivra, va'atu acha shenivra ha'olam. You were there right after the Shema in the morning, before the karbonos. You were there before the world was created. You were there after the world was created. Again, how do we teach it? You were always here. He says, no. Hakol b'shava, in the same way. Just like you were here before creation, you're here in the same way after creation. No difference. Atu achaloi nivra ha'olam, atu acha shenivra ha'olam, dezel b'hu. It could have said, Ata koidim shenivra ha'olam, va'ata acha shenivra. What's Atahu? Atahu koidim shenivra, Atahu acha. It's the same who. It's the same way you were here before, you're here after. What do you mean the same way? It's not the same way. Before you were alone, now you're not alone. Now we're keeping you company. You're not. What do you mean? You're not the same. It's a big change. If you're talking mitzad Gadol Hashem, yeah. There's Mamale, there's Soivev. What do you mean? Of course, I'm a creator. Ribono shel olam. I'm the master of a world. I have a whole world to take care of. It's true. If you're talking about Ligdula Soy, here we don't even use the word Gadol. We're not even going to use the word Mamali. We're not even use the word Soivev. Ligdula Soy ein cheker. That's a whole different pchina. It's kaloi mamish chashiva ki'ilu ein sham olam es klal. I'm not even contrasting if it's tailor-made, if it's not tailor-made. V'lo shayach lefonav yisbarach b'chinas almen. The concept of worlds is not shayach to speak about over there. Loi b'chinas mamale, not as the filler of worlds. Loi b'chinas soivev, not as encompassing the words. Ki einoi begeder almen klal. Because he's completely not in the realm of Oilamus. He's not in the realm of Oilamus. Ukediksiv. On this, the pasuk says, "Gadol Hashem u'muhulul ma'od b'irelikeinu har kotcher." The pasuk says in Tehillim, it's actually the Shir Shel Yom of Monday. Gadol Hashem u'muhulul ma'od b'irelikeinu har kotcher. Remember the pasuk. God is great, and He's very praised. Where? In the city of our God and His holy mountain. V'amru Razal, on this Chazal say, it says in Zohar, fascinating. Eimosai nikra Gadol shel b'irelikeinu. When is he called a Gadol? When he's in our city. In other places, he's not a Gadol. Gadol Hashem u'muhulul ma'od, when? In our city, in Yerushalayim, in Har Kodshay, he's called a Gadol. The Alter Rebbe teaches the whole Maimon Chazal punkt farkert. He says, Eimosai hu Gadol, when can you call him a Gadol? Kshu b'irelikeinu. Why? Because Gedula can apply when he's relating to the world, when he's relating to the city. But lefonav yizbarach, ki lefonav yizbarach, lo shayach gdula. When you're talking about in His presence itself, you can't say Gadol. Why? Because all of the worlds, the highest and the lowest, have no chashivus in His presence. They're not considered something of prominence and significance to the point that you'll say that He's a Gadol. Actually, the midah of Hashem that you call midas hagdula is a form of humility, humbleness. The Gemara says in Meseches Megillah at the end, where you find His greatness, you find His humility. He says His godless is gdula. He, so to speak, enclothes Himself. He limits Himself to be called Gdula in a state of Gdula. So that His Malchus should be able to extend on all the worlds. Vayoshet Hashem Melech la'olam. We say Friday night in Mizmor LeDavid. Right? Kol Hashem yichol v'yolos v'yachsefars Hashem lamabul yashav v'yeshev Hashem melech la'olam. What's v'yeshev Hashem melech la'olam? That for him to be a melech, he has to sit down. Sitting down represents lowering your stature. If you are intact as you are, you're not sitting. Vayeshev means the person lowers his head, and that's how he becomes a melech la'olam. So what we define as God's greatness is really the antithesis of his greatness. It's really his humbling himself. V'zehu, if you haven't had enough psukim to prove this, he says, Va'ata kodesh yoshev tehillas Yisrael. We say every morning, Uvaletzi and Goel, Va'ata kodesh, again it's from Tehillim Chav Beis, you're the Holy One who sits Tehillas Yisrael in the praises of the Jewish people. Pirush, Shaliyoischa Tehillas Yisrael Ubchinas Yeshiva. For you to be able to become a source of praise, you have to sit. You have to lower yourself for us to be able to praise you. Because really, Ata Kaddish, you're completely Kaddish, so therefore we have nothing to say. You want us to talk about you? No problem. Sit down. Yoshev, when you sit down, Tehillas Yisrael, you could become the praise of the Jewish people. We could say Gadol, we could say Mohulal, or whatever else we say, Mamala Kalam, and Soivav Kalam, and Ein Soif, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribono Shel Olam, whatever you want to say. That's Katseyu Elyon. That's the top of the Sharvit. All the Aliyahs are not there. The Aliyahs, when we speak souls coming up, are always Berosh Sharvit, the lower end of the Sharvit. So the Gemara says in Maseches Megillah, the end, a beautiful Maimon Chazal. Wherever you find Hashem's greatness, it will always come together with his humility. And what the Gemara literally means is that whenever Hashem speaks about his greatness, he always speaks immediately about his humility. And the Gemara goes through different psukim. It says, Morim v'kadosh eshkain es dako shval ruach. Pasuk says, I am exalted and holy, but I am with the humble, with those who are crushed and with those who are broken. It's not like you have a person who's pompous and arrogant, and therefore there's no humility there. Wherever there's Gedulas Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shamat HaMaitzim V'Snusa. His godless always comes with anava, with humility. That's literal pshat in the Gemara. The Balatanya here teaches a completely different vart. Not Gedula comes together with anava. His greatness comes together with his humility. No. B'makom sha'ata moitz, actually, literally in the words. Much geschmack in the words. B'makom sha'ata moitz gedulas shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu shamat moitz v'snusa. The place that you call Hashem's gedula, what we call great, unbelievable, or like today everybody likes saying awesome. That which you call awesome, really, what it is actually is a tremendous expression of humility, a tremendous expression of the ability to completely humble himself and belittle himself. What do you mean? You just said it's great, it's unbelievable, it's powerful. From one perspective, it's unbelievably, it's gedula, but from another perspective, essentially that's anvasnusa. What do we mean that's anvasnusa? What makes it anvasnusa?
He hadn't restricted his life so that we can sense it,
right,
feel it. We couldn't praise it.
Exactly. If he hasn't restricted his light so that we could relate to it on some level, we have no praise. Not even the praise of infinity. Not even the praise of greatness. All our praises are relative to our experience. So relative to our experience, we say the Rebbeinu Shalom created the world. Wow. Look at the universe. Study the universe. And the more you study, the more you're impressed. And after you really study the world, again, as much as we're capable of studying and figuring it out, it's like, wow. Who did this all? How does it happen? How does it work? The Rambam says in Hilchos Yesodei Torah, what's the way to reach Avos Hashem and Yiras Hashem? He says when you study the world around you, and you study every detail, as the Rambam says, from the planet in the heaven until the Yitush, until the little mosquito that's in the belly button of the earth, as he puts it, the little mosquito, Betabura Aretz, to the furthest galaxy and star, he says immediately the person is a real person. It's a transformative experience, both in terms of awe, as the Rambam puts it, and in terms of love, in terms of yira, and in terms of ava, both of them, as he describes in Hilchos Yesodei Torah at length. But for this, I'm contrasting it to the world. In other words, from the world, I can say what God is. So I'm defining God based on the world. Wow, look at this world. That's Mamalek Kalam. Mamalek Kalam means I'm defining him based on the universe. Soiviv Kalam is I'm not defining him based on the universe. I'm defining him based on not defining him based on the universe. I'm defining him how? By saying that I don't want to define him based on the universe. I'm not going to limit him just to the force that invigorates me. I understand that there's something infinite here. But again, I'm coming to it in relation to the universe. One is in a positive way and one is in a negative way. One is called Yediyas Achiyuv, one is called Yediyas Hashlila in Jewish philosophy, in the Rambam's works and other works. Yediyas Achiyuv means I define something in a positive way. Yediyas Hashlila means I define it by what it's not. So Soiviv is a definition of what it's not. But even a definition of what it's not is a certain type of definition, because it's a contrast to what it's not. So I know what it is by saying that it's not this. So even though, of course, it's not the same level of knowledge or experience, but nonetheless, I have oisis for it. But then the Baal Tanya says, Hashem himself, I have no relation to describe in one way, to describe in another way, to describe as big, to describe as small. There's no description and definition that relates to it. Einoi begeder almen klar. So whenever you want to speak about his godless, remember you're never speaking about him. Whenever you speak about Hashem is great, you're not speaking about Hashem. You're speaking about the energy that's restricted, that you can talk about it and say that it's great. Whenever I'm experiencing you, it's already the way you're allowing yourself to be experienced by me. So it's never the you. Because the you itself, I can't experience. I have no oisius for it. I don't have a vocabulary for it. And it's not just I don't have oisius for it, I probably don't have the right words. I don't have the concepts even in which to relate to it, because I'm always talking about it from the perspective of my experience of life. And because that's the case, therefore, v'ligdullah soy ein cheker. I don't even begin, ein cheker. So this is another type of meditation. This is another type of hisbonenus. This is not the Rosh HaSharvit. This is the other side of the Sharvit. The Rosh HaSharvit is the scepter that comes down, that he stretches out, so that you can touch. In other words, it's the way that you can touch Elokus. Why can you touch it? Because it's restricted in a manner that the person can experience it on some level, either as Mamali or Soiviv. The Rosh HaSharvit, the first edge of the Sharvit, this is already a whole different b'china. This is Atzmusay and Mahusay, his own core. So on this you say, Vayoshet Hashem Melech Laila. For him to be able to define himself as a melech, what does it mean as a king, as a leader of the world? It takes Vayoshet, Yeshiva, Va'ata Kodesh Yoshev Tilis Yisrael. But Makom Shatamaytze Gdulasay Shamatamaytze Avasnusay, what we call Gdula is really another. Gadol Hashem Amuhul Almoid. Eimasayu Gadol. Only be'ir Elokeinu. In Ir Elokeinu we could say he's Gadol. Not in Ir Elokeinu, what are you saying he's Gadol? What does Gadol mean? Gadol means what he's great. What does it mean great? Yeah, I mean you could use the word great, but Sahatnish can uptouch, it doesn't have a definition, doesn't have a description. This is the other side of the Sharvit. Where does this leave us? Where does this leave us in a relationship? So that we'll see in the continuation of the mind. There's a distinction that the Baal Tanya makes here between three states. What he calls Mamalik Kalalman, what he calls Soiviv Kalalman, and what he calls Atzmos, the essence. And he said, touching the edge of the scepter is basically being mindful of Mamalik Kalalman and Soiviv Kalalman, which is always the end of the scepter. The lowest part, the part that the king gives to Esther, and Esther can hold on to the bottom end of it. Then there is the entire scepter, including the top of the scepter, which is closer to the king. That's a whole different type of experience. When Esther touches the end of the scepter, she's actually touching that which is going to give her life, Sharvit HaZahav V'chaya, because it basically represents the divine energy that infuses life into reality. And that itself can be divided in two levels, Mamalik Kalalman and Soiviv Kalalman. The beginning of the scepter, Rosh HaSharvit, not Rosh HaSharvit, the end of the scepter, but the entire scepter, including the Kotzeihu Ha'elya, in the top edge of it, right? The part that's near the king, He says that has to do with mindfulness, with his beinunus, in what he calls muhusay va'atzmusay yisbarach, atzmus, his core, his essence, not mamala kalaman and sevav kalaman. And over there, he says no thought grasps it. You can't even use the word gedula. You can't even use the word of Godel Hashem umuhulul ma'oid, which is only in Hashem, not in the Gdula Soy. I'm just quoting again, which is Ein Cheker. And he illustrates this, and he gives a few examples. Like he said, he brings a few psukim and a few sources. What we call Gedula is really Anova. What we call his greatness is really his antithesis of greatness, his humility. What we say is so great about God is really, for him, the exact opposite. It's the diminishment of his greatness. What I can identify as great, if I can identify it as great, it already means it's not great. Essentially, it's the same theme that I just said in another word. If you realized, right? If you could say something is good, so then it's already a much lower level. Remember that. Whenever my brain says, this is good, then it's shenishta zay good. What do I mean? It's good. We're not knocking it. We're not judging it. But it means it's that which my brain can wrap itself around and say, I give my haskam on it. I give my haskam on it. Reb Zusha of Anapoli, the Rebbe Reb Zusha, the Balatanya sent his Tanya to two people to give a haskama. Two of his chaverim, students of the Maggid. One was Reb Zusha of Anapoli, and one was another Jew named Reb Yehuda Leib HaKoyen. Both students of the Maggid of Mizrich. Those were the two people he asked for haskama. So Reb Zusha, when he finished reading the Tanya, the manuscript, he said, I made his appella. It's very strange for me. Wie et genommen azar größen Gott und reingelegt in azar kleinem Sefer. How he took such a large God and he placed him into such a small book. But he was saying that it's appella by him. It's strange. Why? If I'm, say, reading a book and I get every line and I'm like, this is excellent, this is wonderful, right? It means that by definition, it's material that my brain is completely at peace with. But what if it's infinite material? What if it's material that shocks my brain? Then I'm going to look at the book and what am I going to say? Boring. This doesn't work. This is irrelevant. Why? It's not a compliment. It's not a compliment. It's not an insult to the book. On the contrary, it's a compliment for the book. They say there was once a Jew who considered himself an art connoisseur. He thought he was an expert on art. Yena expert, but he decided he was an expert on art. So he went to the Louvre, the Louvre Museum in Paris. And he went into one of the very ancient and high-class, sophisticated art galleries. And he's standing, like every Jew stands like this, standing like this, and looking at the paintings, like objectively scrutinizing them. And he turns to the curator, to the person in charge over there, and he says, in my opinion, this painting, I don't know why it goes for $29 million. It's a piece of junk. There's nothing to it. So the curator looked at him and said, sir, let me tell you something. Okay. These paintings are not sitting on trial now. Their power has been established by people greater than you and me. The one who's sitting on judgment now is you, not the paintings. Shilas, how much you will appreciate it. The paintings are the paintings. It's fine. The paintings are good. So here is the question. When I call something gadol, when I say gadol, the Monsey with the Tzemach Tzedek, it's a very deep Monsey. His last year of his life, Pesach, there's yachatz. Yachatz is one of the very interesting things that Jews do. Break the matzah, and they have to figure out and make sure one piece is bigger than the other. So some people have a breakdown at the moment. By yachatz, they have conniptions. You mamish have to call out salah. It's like I told somebody to open a business to make matzahs that have some Today, you don't have to, like Blikas Chametz, they already sell you 10 pieces. They could make up some matzah that you should just be able to break it and it should work. I think it would contribute to the experience of being an Orthodox Jew and remove the last hurdle on the pressures that halacha creates. Like we have ready-made Hanukkah candles, we have ready-made 10 pieces of chametz. The last piece that's missing is an easy yachatz, an easy, accessible yachatz. If anybody's looking for a job, it may be an interesting idea. So this fellow sitting by the seder of the Tzemach Tzedek breaks the matzah, and he starts measuring. You need the gadol and you need the cotton, the small and the big. So the Tzemach Tzedek turns to him and he says, "A gadol was medafe mesten is ken gadol nisht." A gadol whom you have to measure is nicht ken gadol. He's not a gadol. But there's something even deeper than that, and that's what he's saying here. A gadol that you could measure. A gadol that you could measure is ken gadol nisht. It's a gadol, but it means, if I'm defining it as a gadol, that means it's already in terms that are relatable to my experience and to my experience of what greatness is and what grandeur
In
is.
temples, when they have ads that show how bright and colorful a particular screen is, it's only as good as the ad is going to be. It doesn't give you an idea of what.
Right, very good, yeah.
Sounds like the famous Groucho Marx saying, "I wouldn't belong to any club that would have me as a member."
Quoted that yesterday.
That's what he said? Yeah. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. I wouldn't belong to a club that would have me as a member, yeah.
I have to say to Jackie Mason. I have to say to Jackie Mason, follow up.
So,
You never can get to this place.
okay, we'll soon see if we can get to the place. But first, we really have to understand this. So that's why it says, so the Gemara says, "Makim shatamoitze gdulasai, shamatamoitze arvasnusai." The moment we could call Hashem godless, it already means that He's completely restricted there. He's restricted into some term that I could say, wow. My wow is His humility. What I could say wow about, even if I say wow, I don't get it, but I'm like wowed. The very fact that I'm wowed by it means it intrigues me, it challenges me, it opens something up in me. If it opens something up in me, it means already it's relatable to my world. It's relatable to my experience. On some level it's relatable. Either it's completely relatable, or it's a little bit relatable, or even it challenges me. You'll sit by 3 types of shiurim. You could sit at a shiur and you understand everything. You could sit at a shiur and you understand nothing, but you say there was something very special there. I wish I could understand it. And then you could sit at a shiur and you're not even confused. Why? Because it's too deep for you to even be confused. Sometimes it's superficial, so you get it. Sometimes it's deep, so you don't get it, but you know that you don't get it, and you're like, oh, I wish I could have got it. And then sometimes it's so deep, it's too deep for you to get confused. It's like, okay, I mean, why? Not because it wasn't deep, so you're not confused, because it was too deep. It was too deep for a person to be able, even to be able to appreciate that there's something I don't get. It's completely beyond. It's even beyond being beyond. Sometimes something is beyond. You know it's beyond. It's like, whoa, it's beyond me. But it's like right here. It's like right here, you know. And sometimes it's so beyond, it's beyond being beyond. It's not beyond. I have no...
You don't even know that you don't know.
Yeah. So now in life, there's what I know. There's what I know. There's what I don't know. Right? Are there things that some of us don't know? There are some things you don't know, right? I hope so, yeah. But now I want to ask you something else. There's what I know that I don't know. But then there's what I don't know that I don't know. And that's very different. What I know I don't know, I already know a little bit. I know that this I don't know, yeah? We were learning astronomy, so we were learning the orbit of the sun, or the orbit of the earth. You know, I don't get this, reasons for the seasons and this. But I know what I don't know. I could see, it's interesting, it's fascinating. And I hope maybe if I work on it, I'll be able to know more and more and more and more and more. Then there's things in life I don't even know that I don't know. It's not that I know that I don't know. I don't know that I don't know. And that is most of that's most of reality. Most of reality, I don't know that I don't know. So what I don't know that I don't know doesn't confuse me. It doesn't challenge me. It doesn't intrigue me. It's so beyond me that it's not even beyond me. So that type of shir I'm not even getting confused by. Why? Not because it's so superficial. Sometimes that's the reason. We know that could be the reason, but I'm talking at the other extreme. Sometimes it's so profound. Now let's get a little more specifically when we're talking about the divine. Let's say, imagine, you had to, I'll give this mashal once. You had to prepare they want to write a tombstone for Professor Albert Einstein. So you write on the tombstone, Professor Einstein, he knew how to tie his shoelaces, or he knew how to change a light bulb. First of all, I'm not sure he did, but assuming he did, or he knew how to change a doorknob. Again, I don't know that he did, but assuming he did. Everybody understands that if you would write this on his tombstone, or write a eulogy with these words, you would be the laughing stock of all the readers. Why? You might say, it's a very big compliment that he knew how to tie his shoelaces or change a light bulb. My cat can't do it. My rabbit can't do it. Even lions can't do it. Even the most sophisticated gorillas and apes don't tie shoelaces, don't change doorknobs, don't change light bulbs. It's a great virtue of humanity. It demonstrates a quite developed brain and cognitive skills. Or you'll say Professor Einstein knew the timetable. So it's not so simple to know the timetable. He knew how much 7 times 8 is without blinking. It's not pashut. But this would be an insult. Why would it be an insult? The answer is yes. Legabe your dog, or legabe a 1-year-old, or legabe any other animal or creature, it represents intellectual prowess, no question. And it's an important thing that a person develops and knows how to tie shoelaces or fix doorknobs or change light bulbs or knows the timetable. We shouldn't take these things for granted. But let's think about something else. Does this express who he is? Does this express his intellectual creativity? How much percent of his intellectual genius is expressed in these words, he knew how to tie shoelaces? How much percent? I'm asking you. Huh? 0.
Mine.
Or minus 0. It becomes insulting. You'll tell me that he invented the theory of general relativity, the theory of specific relativity. He won a Nobel Prize. Okay, now you're talking. We have to explain what the theory of relativity maybe is. But you're saying something. You're representing something of his mind. You tell me that he changed the doorknob. Okay, it's actually an insult to him. For the entire animal kingdom, it's very complimentary. You're right. But for him, this expresses not even a fraction of 1% of his intellectual capacity or prowess or creativity. So now let's ask another question. If somebody writes a biography about somebody, and you'll ask this person, what do you know about him that you wrote a biography about him? What do you know about him? So you'll say, I know him, I know enough. You wrote a whole book about him. What do you know?
His story.
His story. You met him? I never met him. You spoke to him on the phone for maybe 30, 40 hours? I never did. You read about him? No. Did you listen maybe to 900 hours of his speaking so you got to know his flavor? No. Did you read everything he ever wrote? His diaries, his journals, his books? No. So where did you pick up? You write a book about him. You speak about him. He says, I once saw him, and basically I heard him say, ha! Ha! And I got to know him. So from this you based your book? Yeah. What do you do? I analyzed how he said it, what it sounded like, how it came out, from which part of his vocal cords he spoke, what he looked like when he said it, and the main thing is how it impacted me. Ha! It was so loud and impacted me. So I wrote a book on that. Again, this is the laughing stock. Why is it laughing stock? Not that the person didn't say ha, but I ask you, everyone says ha. Everybody exhales ha. How much of your personality comes out in your ha? How much? How much of your brain, your psyche, your soul, your life story, your identity, your inner narrative, how much of it comes out in the ha? I ask you. Huh? Nothing. Minus zero. Does it come from you? Yeah. We all say ha. But what does it reflect? It reflects nothing. In fact, if I were to describe who you are, that ha won't be part of the description. Not that it's not part of you, but it's completely submerged and lost in the totality of your experience. Do you understand where we're getting at with these metaphors? The Gemara says in Maseches Menachos, Behei Nivra Olam Haza. The whole world was created with the letter Hey. You know how you say the letter Hey? Ha! Ha-chu! Ha! Okay? So what is the universe? The universe is God's ha. But those are the biographies we write about him. Those are the biographies. And those are the tributes we can. What do we call Hashem? Ribono shel olam. And that's supposed to be a compliment, right? Ribono shel olam. What's Ribono shel olam? The master of the world. The master of the... It's supposed to be a compliment. Well, the Rebbe says it may be an insult more than a compliment. It's a compliment for me. I look at the world and I'm like, God, you're good. I can't create the galaxies. I can't even create a mosquito. I can't even get rid of a mosquito. I can't create a mosquito. We can't create a cell. We can't create an atom, a molecule.
Can't even put on doorknob.
Some of us can't even put on a doorknob or figure out how it's made or create the metal from which it's made, which is God's product. Yeah. So, no question, tying a shoelace is very impressive from a dog's perspective and even from a hippopotamus's perspective. Hippopotamus can't tie a shoelace. But that's Albert Einstein. You say, who is God? Gib a cook of the Welt. Look at the world. No, actually that reflects minus zero. It reflects nothing. From our perspective, it's like, wow, amazing. From his perspective, it's actually a denigration. It's basically defining your personality and reducing it to ha. And saying, that's you. Really? That's me? Why don't you get to know me? Why don't you get to know who I am? I say, that's what I know about you. On the other hand, can I dismiss this? I can't dismiss it. You know why? Because basically, that's the God I can experience. The God I can experience is the God of the Ha, the Hey Nivra Olam Haza, because basically that's identity. So when I experience my God through my identity, what am I experiencing? I'm experiencing how Hashem's vitality and identity is restricted to the point that it becomes the battery of the universe, the engine of the universe. He ties shoelaces, or creates shoelaces. But the engine of the universe is no small thing. It's the engine, the source, the soul, the consciousness, the creative power behind the entire universe. Koyach hapoyel benifel. That's Mamalek Kalam. So when I look at the engine, Hashem being the engine of the universe, the core of the universe, it's tremendous. In fact, that's the God that I know, that I can experience. I experience Him through me. Mipsari echzeh lekah. It's my soul. It's like the soul of the body, the soul of the entire universe. But the soul of the entire universe, what fraction of the divine is expressed there? So what we speak about Gadlus Hashem, we say the Ribono shel olam is actually Anvasnusa. It's actually His complete abnegation of self, His suspension of self. It's much more than this. If His self would actually emerge then there would be no universe. Then we wouldn't even be able to speak about identity and about Ribbono Shel Olam. The only reason we can speak about Ribbono Shel Olam is because the restriction, the concealment, the fact that he turned his energy into finite reality that could now give life to the world. Even when you talk about Soivav Kalalman, what's Soivav Kalalman? Soivav Kalalman means the fact that the Ha comes from a source that is infinite, comes from a source that is deeper than the finite experience of the energy. Even that, it's already like the shear that confuses me, that I can already sense it's beyond me and I want to know it. I yearn for it. The fact that it can confuse me is because I have a sensitivity to it. It's not completely beyond me. It's beyond me, but it's beyond me in a sense that it intrigues me. It triggers me. It makes me curious. It makes me inquisitive. It makes me frustrated. The fact that you're frustrated by the information means you have some access to the information. It means you're searching for more. It means you understand that you cannot define God completely based on your imagination and your identity. On the contrary. Just like we even understand in our own psyche, that which you understand of yourself is a very small part of yourself. What you don't understand about yourself is much more you than the part that you do understand about yourself. You understand that, right? Because the part that you understand about yourself is the self that lends itself to your understanding of it. It's already the restricted self. The real self, what we call the subconscious and the subconscious or the superconscious, I don't have clear access. It impacts me. It may impact me very powerful. I have glimmers of it. But when I hear about it, it challenges me. Anybody ever had a raw, brutal conversation with you about who you really are? You think you like them afterwards? You think you like them afterwards? Anybody ever had a person who looked you in the eyes and told you exactly who you really are? Huh? You're still looking for that person. It's hard to find them. And when you find that person, you think it's easy. You think it's easy to hear these things. Every argument in your mind, you're going to discover to fight it, to resist it. Most beautiful thing, but it comes with pain, right?
That's what happened in every
Yeah.
person by themselves.
Yeah, sometimes it happens. Yeah, you have the light bulb, things emerge, and you're like, whoa. What was yesterday hidden becomes today concealed. It doesn't mean it doesn't impact me. It impacts me more than what I know about myself. What we don't know about us influences our lives much more than we do know about us. In fact, that's why we don't know about it, because it impacts us so deeply, from such a deep place. And the brain doesn't manage to filter it to the point that it makes sense in your consciousness, so it remains aloof. I'm giving just a mashal for Soivav Kalalman, but this is still how the divine relates to the universe. So it's part of the Ha, the Behei Nivra Olam Haza.
How can we learn more if all he gave us is a Ha?
Very good. That's why you have Likutei Torah. No, it's not a joke. That's why you have Torah. It's not Pashut.
Soivav is actually more than
What?
Soivav is
Yeah, much more. You can't compare.
It's the Ein Sof.
We're grouping them in just like we grouped Akudim with Toyo and Tikkun. Not that it's not more. Yes, it's infinite. It's not Mamali. Mamali is a divine energy that constitutes the identity of every creation. Mamali means you know God from knowing yourself, so to speak. It's your true self. Soivav is, the Ein Sof.
It's the Ein Sof minus the whole universe. What's the whole universe minus the Ein Sof?
Yes, you could say that, yeah.
Soivav.
So ultimately, when we're talking about Mamali and Soivav together, it's called Rosh HaSharvet. It's the Sharvet that comes down. It's the Hamshachas Achiyus. It's the way Alakus infuses the world with identity and with infinity. Identity, which is more limited, and infinity, which is unlimited. That's why this is called Mamali. Mamali means it's suitable to the universe. It fits the parameters, just like a 7-ounce cup is filled with 7 ounces water. You'll say the water fills the cup. What do we mean fills? We don't mean spatially it fills. Fills means that the cup accesses it. The cup makes peace with it. The cup, I get it. The cup gets it. The cup and this cup, I get it because it's limited to me. It's like that shear that's fed to you. It's like the baby food that's spoon fed to you. It goes into your system. It's geschmack because it's completely tailor-made to my identity. It fills me. It nourishes me like a meal. It fills me. Soivav doesn't fill me. Soivav remains above. It remains transcendent. It remains around the cup. Around, again, doesn't mean spatially. Around means it's above my conscious experience. It's still part of me, but it's above it.
So the end of the scepter is the Soivav?
So Mamali and Soivav are both the lower end of the scepter that is communicated into the universe. It's communicated into Esther. V'chaya, it's the source of Chiyus. But what we call the source of Chiyus is really a tremendous obstruction and concealment. It's the Ha. It's the Hey Nivra Olam Haz. Olam Hab is a Yud, so it's a Ya. It's the Ha, it's a Ya. Okay. So now you're going to start describing to me this person and make a biography based on this? So this means you could study the universe for 1.1 million years. And you can even unravel all of its secrets, which of course we did not. In other words, we don't even have an understanding of Mamalik Kalam. We don't even understand what is in the brain of a mosquito. We don't know what is in the brain of a bee. We still didn't decipher the secret of a single cell or a single atom. We still do not understand the depth of the DNA codes within a cell. And that's all the products of Mamale Kalam. So even Mamale, when I say Mamale, it's still infinite. But let's understand, even if I would understand the entire universe and Mamale, right? I completely did not even begin to access, to have a relationship, to be able to experience the other side of the Sharvit, the other side of the scepter. This is what he calls Atzmusi Umuhusi Yisbarach, who actually Hashem, so to speak, is. Not because I don't want to, because my vocabulary is based on Mamalik al-Alman. My vocabulary about God is based on God completely diminishing himself, restricting himself, so I can have a vocabulary. Even the greatest vocabulary. Ein Soif, Godel Hashem, Mamalik al-Alman, Soivav al-Alman, Yishtabach Shmoy.
Somebody who was aware yearns more to get to the Ein Sof.
But even that is limited.
Ich will nicht dein Gan Eden, ich will nicht dein Olam Haz, ich will nicht das dich allein, he used to say. What does he mean, dich allein? Dich allein means you, I want you. Beyond Soivav, Atzmus. Yes, relative to Mamali, Soivav is also more dich allein. It's all, things are relative. That's called Ziv. That's what light is. No, what's light? Light is very important. The light of the sun tells me a lot about the sun, no question. But I'm going to, same question. You write a book about the sun. Okay? You make a website about the sun. Somebody says, what do you know about the sun? So you say, I sit every morning in the shear. The Venetian blinds are supposed to be open. And the rays of the sun come into the room. So what do you mean I don't know about the sun? I look at the table and I see the light. Before Edison came and made us all these problems. First effort in a minute.
There's no sun.
There's no sun today? Okay. The sun went on vacation? There's still sun, even with rain. The sun doesn't stop. The sun never doesn't arrive to the shear. Sun is always here. What? This is nothing? This is nothing? The rays of the sun that illuminate planet Earth and they illuminate every basement and every home is nothing? It tells you tremendous about the sun. But now I ask you, how much do you know about the sun from the rays of the sun that enter into your dining room? How much do you know about the sun? Do you know something about the sun? Something. Is it true? Is it true that the sun produces these rays? No question. Is it true that the same God who we speak about Atzmos, or we don't speak about it, is the God who created every atom and every cell and every mosquito and every salamander and every frog and every droplet of rain and every flake of snow and every blade of grass and every heartbeat of every child? Of course. But what does it tell me? It's like the ray of the sun. The ray of the sun is powerful, it's significant, it's wonderful, it's awesome. We're thankful for it. But don't think you know anything about the sun. It comes from the sun, no question. But what does it capture of the sun? Not even a fraction of a fraction. That's why the expression in all of Kabbalah and Chassidus is always Ohr Ein Sof. Why Ohr? What's up is light? Always you'll have the word Ohr, 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 Ohr. It'll never go away from the word light. Why? Why this thing with the word light? It's a nice word, no question. It's better than darkness. But why light? You know why he says light? Because of this. Because I'm going to talk about everything, but just know, all I'm talking about is light. What's light? Light means that which is communicated to me, so I should be able to experience it. What I know about the sun is based on the rays of the sun. Now I ask you, what happens to that ray in this room? Yeah? What does this ray look like in the solar core? In the solar is the sun. In the solar core, what does this ray look like? It has a huh? It's not even a MS. It's not going to make it into the news. Not that it's not there. If the ray is here, it's certainly there. But what is it? It's 1%. It's a 0.1%.
Much.
You can't even say less. Yeah, this is what's called bittul b'metzias. This is what he calls bittul b'metzias. It's not because this is the Ohr in its source. In our world, wow, look at the sun. In the sun itself, what we're saying, wow, look at the sun. It's not a compliment. Doesn't express anything. But on the other hand, if we would go into the sun, we wouldn't be able to talk about the sun, right? If you're in the sun, you're in the sun. Hashem is fire. So he says, why is Moshe call Hashem fire? He says, with fire, it's one of two things. Either you stay far away and you enjoy it, or you get burnt up in it. There's no such a thing, you put your foot into the fire and you say, I want to experience part of the fire. Either you stay far away, or you get burnt up in it. Hashem once said. So Ohr is a very significant word. Whenever you see the word Ohr, now you understand what Ohr is. Ohr is very powerful, but remember it's Ohr. I'm not talking about Ein Sof, I'm talking about the Ohr of the Ein Sof. Even Mamali, he'll say Ohr. Even Mamali we talk about Ohr. Everything we talk about Ohr. Certainly you're talking about Atzmos. But now, here's the question. Huh?
Froze.
Okay.
That's going. It's just with people.
Where does this leave us? That's why the term Ribono Shel Olam, was not often used by the Baal HaTanya, even though it's used a lot in certain circles. How do people in your circles where you grew up, when they want to talk about Hashem, what's the name? Ribono Shel Olam is very popular in some places. Bashefer, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then there's the Eibishter. Ribono Shel Olam is true, but it's really insulting. It's really not a nice name. It's the Ha. Ribono Shel Olam. Bashefer, the same thing. The Creator. Okay. It's basically, imagine you want to write an article about how amazing your wife is. Yeah? So Yid once told me he was at a levaya. It's a Sfardish lady, a Sfardish couple, and Almana was there, the levaya. So at the open grave, she started to cry and she started to say, Ech hu ahav ha-boreket shali. Af echad lo yahav ha-boreket shali kamato. How he loved my boreket. Nobody's going to love my boreket like he. And this person who was there, a real Ashkenazi, told me, he says, by us, Ashkenaz, everything is sophisticated. He said it was so primal, it was so real. What she's going to miss is somebody who's going to love her bareket. Somebody who's going to eat, barekas. Barekas. Whatever, the horrible food. Full of oil and carbs. And Dr. Michelle can tell you about it. Barekas, if it's was barekas is. Chamrim barekas, it's a chasidim. Like a potato knish, Achman al-Islam. They put an egg. They put in cold over mose. Whatever you could put in to kill you, they put into the barakas. But it's considered an Eretz Yisrael. It's like chaluptus by some of you. It's kodesh kadosh. It was not that bad. It was a very real experience for her. I'm not going to talk about is this barakes. Oops. Barakes. It's real. You know what I mean? She was crying, but it was a real experience. It was small, but it was real. What it does for me. But imagine you want to talk about somebody's life, and all you could say is what they did, something that enhanced you. So it's like talking about the sun, and all you could say is that the ray comes into the room. It's very significant, but I have to realize it's all from my perspective. The term the Balatanya would often use is Ein Sof or the Eibishter. Why Eibishter? The word Eibishter, what does it mean? What's the word Eibishter?
No.
You say, Weint auf an Eibishter Stock. He lives on the higher floor. So literally, Eibishter, Eibin means the higher. Eibishter, whatever the Havara is, the pronunciation is. Means the higher one. What means the higher? What's the higher one? There's an important definition here. The important definition here is, I don't know what it is. I'm not even saying creator. All I'm saying is one thing. Wherever I am, it's higher than that. That's what I'm saying. Wherever I am, it's higher than that. Now, on the other hand, how can I experience God if I don't talk about Mamala, if I don't talk about Soiv? My experience can only come from that. So now, where does all of this leave us? So there's two questions here. First of all, did God want us to have a relationship with Him or not? Only with only with what's it called? A sneeze, a hust. Did He want us to have a relationship with Him or not? That's question number one. Question number two is, in terms of our life, what does it do? Is there some relevance in our life from this? So here, I'm going to say this very, very briefly, and we're going to cross borders here, from the world of Ruchnius maybe to the world of, it's really the same world, the world of psychology. But this is one of the great ideas that Alter Rebbe says, the Balatanya says, and that's as follows. If you understand Atzmos, if you understand something about Atzmos, you understand one more thing. And that is that nothing could block it. There could be no blockage on that. All blockages dissolve. In other words, and I'm going to quote what he writes somewhere else in the Torah Monsey, when he speaks about this again, a few times, and he says, Kula kamei kaloi chashiv. In that space is ki'ilu ein oilamis. He says here, ki'ilu ein oil. It's like there's no worlds. What do I mean there's no worlds? Why is there no world? Because when he restricted himself, so therefore there is a world. He creates the worlds. The worlds are a reflection of his identity. When you're talking about the core, the essence, so it transcends even transcendence. So ki'ilu ein oilamis klal. What do I mean it transcends transcendence? What's pshat ki'ilu ein oilamis klal? You're dealing with a state where it's not pshat that he is be'erich to the oilamis. His oid is mitzumtzum, his oid is restricted. So therefore, now he becomes a source of the world. You're dealing with the divine itself, which all we could say about it is, as I said, Eibishter. Beyond. What do I mean beyond? Beyond even the word beyond. I don't mean beyond as beyond, because that is also beyond. It's even beyond being beyond. But what does that mean? That means, on one hand, you say, so he's so remote. Atzmos is so remote. It's so like, okay, fine, so you told me about this. So what do I do with this? But really, it's the other way around. There can't be any blockages over there. There's no blockage. Nothing could block it. Why could nothing block it? Memale kalalmin, you can experience a blockage towards. You can experience a blockage of experiencing it. Soivav kalalmin, you can experience a blockage. Why can you experience a blockage? Because these are energies that somehow relate to the human experience. So therefore, our experiences can become obstructions of experiencing that energy. We deprive ourselves from experiencing that energy because we're blocked. What about when you're dealing with Atzmos? When you're dealing with Atzmos, so then, at any moment, in any experience, there's never a blockage, there's no partition, there's no separation. It's the deepest form of intimacy and closeness that is always available because there's nothing that can get in the way. Absolutely nothing. So in a person's life, it would mean this. All trauma that people have don't allow them to live life in a certain way. If a person has certain trauma, if a person has certain abuse that they have to deal with, they come to life with pain. And when they come to life with pain, so that's how they experience life. So therefore, all experience is it's channeled, it's colored through that experience. I can't go away from that. This is part of reality. This is where I am. So now I can't feel the full beauty or the full depth or the full grandeur in every situation because there's blockages, and I have to spend my life cleaning up the system and allowing the flow because I'm experiencing everything through the lens of my trauma. The ultimate source of healing comes when you can introduce Atzmos. Because once you introduce Atzmos, now, at any moment of your life, in any circumstance, under any conditions, no matter what happened yesterday, no matter what happened 35 years ago, no matter what happened 20 minutes ago, and everything that it triggered in me, in that space, everything dissolves. Everything dissipates. There's nothing that could remain a real block. There's nothing that could become a mechitza shel barzel that blocks the experience. When you're in tune with that space, at any moment, what's available for you is complete wholeness with complete infinity. Because if Atzmos comes into the picture, so then your only truth is one truth. What is the truth? The truth is the ray in the solar core. What's the ray in the solar core? Your truth at this moment is your absolute oneness with God. And nothing could take away from that. You say, what do you mean, but I was abused? I was molested. I had this marriage. I have this marriage. I have this experience. You know what type of father, my mother, my youth, my first, whatever it is, my wife, my husband, my child, my money, my psychology.
While it's happening.
Huh?
While it's happening.
While the abuse is happening?
Yeah.
If you can go into that space, fine. But I'm talking about now the aftermath. You're right. But most of us, usually when we're abused, don't have the serenity of sitting at a shiur and analyzing it, right? If yes, we wouldn't be abused. We're abused in certain situations. Now we deal with the aftermath. When you deal with the aftermath, you toifus what I'm saying now? From the world of Atzmos, what's the truth of every moment? There's only one truth, and that's the truth of him himself. And where do you fit in? You're there. You're part of it. You're not excluded. Everything is there. It's the ray in the solar core. Once the ray left the solar core, now you put up Venetian blinds. What happens to the ray? It gets blocked. So we all have Venetian blinds in life. We don't let the ray come in. Why? Because that's the energy that can be blocked. Why can it be blocked? Because it's relatable to the dynamics of the universe. Once it's relatable to the dynamics of the universe, there could be obstructions, there could be blockages. You could call yourself an addict. You could call yourself an abused soul. You can all these, and these names are true and important, and you have to deal with these names. However, in the world of Atzmos, what's the truth at any given moment? What's the only truth at any given moment? Let's say a half an hour ago, this is what happened. And let's say 20 years ago, this is what happened. And let's say I come home and this is the type of marriage I'm facing, and these are all the emotions that it triggers up, and that's why I became this type of person, and I look at you from this particular way, and it's hard for me to have empathy, it's hard for me to have understanding, it's hard for me to have emotions, it's hard for me to experience life. Why? Because my father was this, and my mother was a Holocaust survivor, and my uncle was this, and my shviga is this, all the reasons we have, and it shaped my identity. What do you mean it shaped your identity? Which aspect of your identity did it shape? It shaped the aspect of your identity, that lives in the world of identity. And in that space, yes, this is very serious. Or to in spiritual terms, it affects your relationship to Mamalek Alalman.
But don't you die once you get to that level, like not going to real?
I don't know that you die. We'll soon see if you have to die. The Maimer is going to say that that's Purim. This Maimer is going to teach that this is the essence of Purim. This is what Purim is all about. That's what Purim is. That's why it's the source of all healing. Adar lo yada. Adar lo yada means you have to stop figuring yourself out.
So you can get to this stage.
Not only you can, if he wouldn't talk about it if you can't get to this stage. The Alter Rebbe first and foremost was an Oyev Yisrael. Before everything, he was a leader of the Jewish people. When he speaks about something, he's speaking to people. In his room himself, he could experience this much more than he even writes in the Torah. He says it in the Maimer, trust me. What he's saying here is Oichanan novel legabe, how he understood it. He was speaking to Chassidim, so he tried to explain it a little bit. So his first and foremost focus in every Maimer is, how do I pick up my people? How do I pick up the Jewish people? So whenever he speaks about these things, it's not because he was sitting in his room and he said, you know what, let me confuse them with another Madrega in Kabbalah. Since Kabbalah is not confusing enough, so let's hakara in another Madrega, so they'll realize they don't understand anything, and they'll go home and feel happy, or confused, and say, let's go eat shalom. Yeah? Whenever he talks about this, it's because it's negei in Avodas Hashem. What are the ramifications in Avodas Hashem? This is very powerful. This is not only powerful, it's the source of all healing. The real source of all healing. Not to delegitimize other forms of transitional healing, of working through stuff. That's important. We don't say Mamalek Alalman has to be obliterated from the world and let's forget it and jump straight into Atzmos. Because we live in a world of identity. We live in a world of abuse. And I shouldn't have said that. We live in a world of pain.
Challenges.
We live in a world of challenges. Very good, Moshe. You're always to the rescue. Always making things soft and relatable.
How are you teaching Atzmos?
Gewaldige Shaila. Gewaldige
Can
Shaila.
relate to it, is it outside?
Well, if you want me to get lost in it, I gotta know where it is.
Excellent.
The 2.5 hours.
Gewaldige Shaila. How do we teach Atzmos? The truth is like this. If we would have a teich for Atzmos, it wouldn't be Atzmos. That's his point.
No, but where's the
The word means the core of God on his terms. Now, of course, every word I said is
Are you kidding me?
the core of God on his terms. But one second, every word I said is problematic. The core is problematic. God is problematic. You know that, right, Lenny? You know why it's problematic, yeah? Because the moment we use the word God, what is it?
Limits.
And it's not only limited, b'chlal, it's limited to what we were taught when we were 2 years old about God. Trust me. When people hear the word Hashem, Bashef, Rebbeinu Shloim, God, the Eibishter, the Almechtike, the Heilige Bashef is even better. Shechina Gdoisha, whatever the word is, Eibishter, what we're hearing is not the word. We're hearing what we're hearing. You know what I mean? That's how it is. So, core is a problem, God is a problem. On his is the bigger problem, his, not hers. Okay, we're not going to get into the whole feminist thing. But God as masculine is as sensible as God as feminine, etc. Shechina is feminine, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is masculine, Kutchabrichu Shechinte is the marriage between the two, Shalom Bayis. Terms is, of course, also problematic. So you're right, any taich of Atzmos is problematic, but what's relevant here is one thing. And that is, in the world of Atzmos, what's the truth of any moment? What's the truth of any person? What's the truth of any experience at any given moment in life? Despite anything that happened, what is the truth of that moment? Complete oneness with infinite. It's this ray of light in the solar core. The ray of light in the solar core can say, I was traumatized. I went into their house and they traumatized me. They closed the curtain on me. And the ray says, therefore I can't function. I can't focus, I can't get a job, I have no confidence, I don't know how to educate my kids, I can't love, I was abused. I tried to come in and he closed it. That's why I asked you to open up the Venetian blinds. I heard the rays crying.
We're still abusing him.
Not here. Here we opened up the Venetian
Climate
blinds.
change.
That's Al Gore, that's something else. That's not our problem. Your typhus? But what about the ray in the solar core? What happens to its trauma? What happens to its trauma? Not. What says to gets lost? What says to gets lost?
Minimize.
The truth of the ray at that moment is what? Intimacy with Hashem. So where's trauma? You're in the most perfect place you can be. You're the most powerful place you could be. Yes, and there's no you as a separate you anymore. But that's where the source of all healing is. You get it? You see it's not so boring? Yeah. Page 187, yeah? Page 187, Tzadik Dalet Amud Beis, the second column. The line starts Hashpala. Okay, we can start the line before. I mean, we did 2 lines before. Va'ata Kodesh Yoshev Tehillas Yisrael. The pasuk says in Tehillim Chav Beis, we say it every morning. We say it Mitzvah Shabbos. Va'ata Kodesh Yoshev Tehillas Yisrael. So he teaches Va'ata Kodesh Yoshev Tehillas Yisrael means that Shali Yoischa Tehillas Yisrael Hu B'chinas Yeshiva. For you to become Tehillos Yisrael, to become something that Yisrael praises, Tehillah means praise, it's only when you're in the state of Yoshev. For you to be Tehillos Yisrael, that's already a state of Yoshev, of Yeshiva. Which of course, the difference between Amida and Yeshiva, standing and sitting, is by a person. When a person is standing, so then they are erect, in their full erect stature. Their posture is fully erect, b'koima skufa. Yoshev, by definition, is the person lowering his body to a position where he or she sits down. So he says, Shu hashpala v'anova etzlecha. Spiritually, this is a metaphor for the fact that you are humbling yourself. It's a form of anova. Shebe'emes ata kodesh umuvdal b'geder zeh. Because really, even this geder, which geder? That you're Tehillos Yisrael, which seems to be the ultimate. Tehillas Yisrael means that we praise you and we praise you infinitely. But really, Va'ata Kaddish. What does Kaddish mean? As Rashi says, Kedusha comes from the word Havdalah. Doishim to you, Prushim to you. Whenever we say the word Kaddish, what means it's holy? There's something sublime about it, transcendent, aloof, higher. Like the word Eibishter, higher. Higher from what? Higher of what? Whatever you're talking about, it's higher. But there's no point where you stop saying higher. In other words, there's no point you say, oh, this is it. Va'ata Kaddish, and that Kaddish is infinite. This Tehillas Yisrael, we talk, we praise, we remember that this is all in the realm of Yoshev. Once there's a realm of Yoshev, there's a yeshiva, here begins the process of Tehillas Yisrael. So generally, all aliyos of Neshamas Yisrael, Shabbos, Yom Tov, all this, what we call spiritual experiences of a human soul, all the aliyos of a person, all the spiritual striving of the person, all spiritual awareness of a person, all divine awareness of a person, as deep, as powerful, as potent, as transformative, as an infinite as it is, as he said in the opening of the paragraph, it's Negiya B'Rosh HaSharvet. It's touching the way end of the scepter. Why is it touching the way end of the scepter? Because it's basically my experience of Hashem. My experience of Hashem. And by definition, that is already Yoshev Tehillas Yisrael. Vayeshev Hashem Melech La'olam. Gadol Hashem u'muhulol miyoid be'ir Elokeinu. Be'ir Elokeinu, you become you become gadol. Ligdulasai is ein cheker. Eimasai gadol kshubir lekenu. But makom shatamoitzi gdulasai, shamatamoitzi anvasnusai. For you to be a gadol, you really have to have much more anova than you have to have godless. For you to be able to become a gadol, it's already our description, our experience. Even if that description and experience is extremely lofty and extremely sublime and extremely transcendental, even not only mamali but also soiviv, still we're calling it soiviv kol almin. There's a relationship to almin. Mamali is a relationship to almin, and soiviv is also a relationship to almin. It's just a different type of relationship to almin. It's not mamali, it's not tailor-made, it's not custom-made, it's not so restricted, it's not so finite. It's soiviv, but it's also soiviv kol almin. It's the infinity that I glean through finiteness. It's the sense of infinity that I come through from through the universe. It's the sense of grandeur and transcendence that I learn about from the experience of life. And I realize that there's something much deeper. And the more I get to know you, the more I know how much I don't know you. Like in a relationship, a real relationship, the more you get to know, it's a paradoxical thing. The more you get to know the person, the more you know how much you don't know them. When you don't know people, you think you know them, right? We all do that with people. Right? Oh, of course I know him. The moment you really get to know a person, really deep, then you know that you don't know. Because when you come to deeper places, these things are off limits by definition. It's not because they're not telling you the secret. Because there's a b'china of Vayoshet Yaakov levadai b'yomahu. In every person's life, there's a state of levadai. There is a state of, I'm not going to call it the lonely man of faith. We're not talking about here that concept of the lonely man of faith, but a sense of levadai, of aloneness, of exclusivity. Exclusivity, huh? Uniqueness, yeah, exclusivity. V'nizgav, the pasuk says, the Medrash says in the pasuk, Vayoshet Yaakov levadai, Vayoshet Yaakov levadai, Vayavik ishi mayada lois hashachar, haduhu diksiv v'nizgav Hashem levadai b'yomahu, and Shlomo put them together in a song. Yeah. V'nizgav Hashem levadai. Maybe we can ask them to give us a rendition. Hashem levadai, Vayoshet Yaakov. What's the connection? So this is not his own chiddush. The Medrash puts the two together. So Degel Machan Ephraim says, "Mayin Shmita Etzel Har Sinai." He says because the levada here is complementary. It's not levada. You're a loner and nobody cares about you. It's levada that ultimately there's something in this world that you have to carry alone. Your wife can't carry it with you. Your children can't carry it with you. Not that they don't understand it. Not that they don't support. Not that they don't appreciate. Not that they don't empathize. But there's a certain nekuda pnimis that's levada. It's your own. And the more you get to know a person, the more you know their pnimis, the more you become respectful of that nekuda. So in many ways, it's actually the other way around. You become respectful of a secret that it's not a secret because they're afraid to tell you because they don't want to be vulnerable. It's a secret because by definition it's a secret. Real secrets, even if you talk about them, they're still secrets, right? Kodesh HaKadoshim, even if you open up the curtain, it remains Kodesh HaKadoshim. For it to be, it has to be a secret. If you take it away from the world of secrecy, it's not it anymore. If you want to give a contemporary example for this, and this is an important example too, although it's not our topic, this would be intimacy. Intimacy, by definition, is a secret. The moment it's not a secret, it's not intimate anymore. It loses its oomph, it loses its grandeur. It's one of the great challenges of our time, that it's not a secret anymore. It's be'etzem a secret. The Kohen Gadol going into the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur, it's a secret. It remains a secret. By definition, it's a soid. Torah's HaNister is called Soidus HaTorah. Not because it's not written. You can go to the store and buy it. You can read it. So that they're garnished halfen. It remains a secret. It's by definition, it's a secret. It has to be intimate. It's something beyond. I'm just giving different ices for the concept of soiviv that you come through memale. Memale also points to something beyond. But that's all still my experience.
In the 4 or 5 psukim that he's brought here to say the same, the 4 or 5 psukim, the one that's in...
the first was Gadol Hashem Muhul Miyait.
Right.
The second, of course, is, he'll say that almost every time, Malchuscha Malchus Kol Eilamim. That for him to be a Melech Eilamim, it's already a Chiddush. It's not the natural state of God. to say that God is a king of the universe is actually quite humbling. The king of the universe, as we explained. It's quite gigantic and awesome. If you think about it,
From
you know,
our
the Lord of the Rings. Huh?
From our perspective, it's awesome.
Yes.
And this one is the only one, Gol Hashem Od Mulom B'Elokim Rakat Show, where he introduces, besides the name of Hashem, he introduces the Shem Elokim. So I'm just curious if that's significant. In other words, all the others start Gol Hashem Od, they don't.
It's significant,
switch.
but not here.
Okay.
It's significant in other places. It's connected, but not here.
Okay.
And the term is Lafanav Yisbarach L'Shayach Lashon Gedula. Why? Because all elements of Yainu v'Tachtonim is Kula Kalei Chashav Kameh. So the very notion of Gedula
It's a put down.
is already a put down. If the oilam is al yainim and tachtoinim hanach shivus, and of course it's a tremendous compliment, it's tremendous praise. It's a Godel Hashem, the godless.
Say Baruch Shem Kvod Malchus learn good quietly. That's one of the reasons.
Yeah. You mean the Gemara in Psachim, yeah. Hericha b'tzikik deira. Hericha b'tzikik deira. The princess smelled. It's embarrassing. Yeah. So he says, Midas Gdulasi is an Vasnusa Shem Eslabish Bebchinas Gdula. It's almost that Gdula is a lavush. His definition of Gdula, what do we mean Gdula? Gdula means the ruler of the world, the great God, the awesome God, the creator, the boss, the ultimate king. This is like a lavush. It's almost like a suit. You know, you put on a suit and you take off a suit. So you're going to tell me, I'm going to start describing you based on your suit. You put on a suit and that becomes your definition. You saw his suit. Really? You said nothing about me. That's another problem, right, we have in the world, right? A person is completely defined by his lavush. I don't even know who you are. Your suit, you never looked at me. You don't even know what I look like. All you know is my suit, my lavush. And some people invest a lot of their life into their lavush because the car, the watch, whatever it is, the point is it's mislapish. So, not that a lavush is not important. The lavush is important, but the idea is that gedula, so to speak, it's a lavush. It's a lavush that he puts on in order to be able to have a relationship with the universe, in order to be able to create a universe that looks like the way the universe looks like, and not only our universe, even the most spiritual, lofty universes that completely feel divine energy. But what do they feel of the divine energy? They feel ultimately malchus kolei. Lamas of Ata Kaddish is Yoshev Telis Yisrael. So therefore, all spiritual experiences in the entire universe and beyond is always Negiya B'Rosh HaSharvit. The lowest end of the scepter. The scepter would be in the flow of energy, which is V'chaya, Sharvit HaZahav. Remember V'chaya, the chiyus of all the worlds. But ultimately, the Sharvit remains in his hand. There is a ray, an energy that is communicated, which is restricted, and that is represented by the edge, the lowest edge of the Sharvit, which represents the Hamshacha, the flow of divine energy, the way it's communicated, the way it comes down. And this is expressed in a tremendous love, a fiery love, because when a person is mindful of Mamali Kalam and Sevu Kalam, and it creates Zahava Tnufa, creates a fiery love. But then there is a different mindfulness that comes from the highest edge of the Sharvit, and that's when the person thinks not about Mamali and Saiviv, but about Mulhusev Atzmusi is Baruch, which by definition, all you're thinking about is that no thought can really grasp it or define it. No thought can access it, because the moment we're accessing it through our thoughts, we are already defining it. In other words, it's that aspect of even if we're accessing truth, but we're accessing that aspect of truth that allows us to access it. It allows us to wrap ourselves around it to some degree. So therefore, all spiritual experiences always stop by Rosh HaSharvit. Now he summarizes, that's going to be the Aval. However, it's in contrast to what he started in the beginning of the paragraph. It was a long sentence.
Which is Shabbos and Yom, not Klein Zach.
Right. Aval la'asid in the future, Yizgala Ohr Hashem begilu Rava Otzim. The Ohr Hashem will be revealed with tremendous, intense revelation. Dahainu. What do we mean? Hamshachas elakusi is barich v'atzmusa yumuhusim mebchinas ani Hashem lo shanisi hoya hoya v'yikar echad. That what will be able to be palpably felt is the sense of his godliness and his core and his essence from what we call Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi, from that state which the Navi says, I have not changed. In other words, creation has not changed me. What do I mean creation has not changed me? Because that element of self has not been altered at all by creation. Creation did not change that. When you speak about Mamala Kalaman or even Sevav Kalaman, so basically it's not just creation altered it. It's the divine energy that is responsible for the experience of creation. All creation is divine energy. It's chiyus. It's God's chiyus. Sharvit hazahav v'chaya. All the olamas come from it. Well, how do you say atu koidim shenivra olam, atu la'achar shenivra olam? And as we said, it's the same who. It's not the same who. There's a whole world. Because when you're talking about that space where olamas exist, but it's kilu ein sham olamas. They completely don't occupy any space, and therefore they can't create any obstruction. I'm going to go back to my metaphor. You have the ray of light in the solar core. How much of a fraction of the sun is it? If you take a picture of the sun, are you going to point out and say, oh, by the way, look at the sun. Right there you have the ray that was in our house this morning. Not that the ray is not there. If the ray is here, it's certainly in there. What is the sun? You know how many explosions and fusions happen in the sun? You know what's going on in the sun? And I don't remember mamish, but that's what they say. All the rays are there, but the ray is not toifus makim. That's what it says. Ki'ilu ein shamaylam is here. The rays of the sun are gewaltige chiddush. We crave for it. We wait for sunrise. We yearn for that first ray. Alois hashachar. When people rise, vasikin eitzachama mechanon even davenin. The rays are very significant. Our planet depends on the ray of the sun. You get rid of the ray of the sun, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. We can't survive. The exact distance, we need the light, we need the heat, we need the warmth. We must have it. The ray is amiyuchas. In the solar core, the ray is also there. We're not saying the ray is not there. But Eishes Bar Elokimus Hashemayim V'Saaretz is not a delusion. He never says ein oilamus. He says ki'ilu ein shamaylamus. That word ki'ilu is a key word. Ki'ilu ein shamaylamus klal. He'll never say existence is an illusion. There were philosophies who still believe something called a philosophy called Maya, that existence is an illusion. It's all a dimyan. Achalam shechalmu acherim al acherim. In the Far East, there are disciplines this way, that basically the purpose of life is to realize that it doesn't exist. Existence is an illusion. That is contrary to one of the yesodis of Yiddishkeit. Bereishis bara Elokim hashemayim v'saaretz. Existence is not a dream. Existence is authentic. The very concept of Torah and mitzvahs depends on that. If existence is not true, so then tefillin don't exist. Mezuzah doesn't exist. Matzah doesn't exist. A Megillah doesn't exist. Parchment doesn't exist. Nothing exists. Avodas Hashem in Yiddishkeit is based on physical material. We don't say it doesn't exist. Even in the state of Atzmos, his lashon is Einoi begeder alman. He's not in the geder of oilamas. He says, Ki'ilu ein sham olamas klal. Ki'ilu. What do I mean, Ki'ilu? Ki'ilu means they don't create any type of obstruction. There's no tfisas makom for it. It doesn't occupy a separate space. Not to give mamish, not an accurate mashal, but episashtikal mashal. I take my child or I take my friend, we go to the Atlantic Ocean, we go to the Pacific Ocean. And I want to show him the Pacific Ocean. So what do? I take a cup of water, and I fill up the cup of water from the Pacific Ocean. And I say, come, let me show you the Pacific Ocean. And I take him to the house and I say, here, look at this cup, study it, and you'll see the Pacific Ocean. No, am I saying the truth? Yeah, I'm not lying. The water comes from the Pacific Ocean. But did I show him the Pacific Ocean? Did I show him the Atlantic? Did I show him even the Mediterranean? You take him to the ocean, you show him the ocean, even then you didn't show him the ocean. You showed him a few miles at best. Even then you didn't show him the ocean. Not that the water doesn't come from the ocean. The water comes from the ocean. But it's the Chazal have an expression, it's kitipim and ayam. Tipim and ayam, it comes from it. But it's not the yam. And if you're going to start describing the Pacific based on this cup of water, it's pretty a pathetic description. It's not a lie. The water comes from the ocean. So everything that's in the water is from the ocean. But don't tell me that everything in the ocean is expressed in the water. So all mamali, all soiviv are all cups of water. They're all divine energy. They're real. They come from the ocean. But if this becomes the ocean, this is the ocean. So when we say Gadlus Hashem, it's basically describing the Pacific in terms of the cup of water, your typhus. And now if I take the water and I pour it back into the ocean, and I bring you to the ocean, And I say, look at the ocean. And by the way, look right there and you'll see the cup of water.
Now it's complete.
Now the ocean is complete. Now finally the ocean has an identity. It's loy ma'ila v'loy mayit. Not that it's not true. The water is there and it's part of it. And it's... Again, this is of course an inaccurate example because an ocean as large as it is limited. It's finite. The Gemara says in Hoiri is that Rabbi Yeshua said, Yoidaini l'shayir kama tippus yesh bayam. I could estimate how many drops are there in the sea. I could estimate it. It's not l'mayla minativ. I can estimate how many drops of water on the sea. It's not the easiest science, but Rabbi Yeshua testified about himself that he can do it. Kama tippus yesh bayam. That's why I say the metaphor is inaccurate. But it gives us a little bit of a description. Not that these energies are not true. Of course they're true. And from Hashem's perspective, it's all one. It's not up as three things. It's all one. It's all atzmos. But our description of it has to appreciate. We have to appreciate the remoteness, the distance. We have to be sensitive to what we are describing. Of course, there is good news. Not only good news, maybe the greatest news, maybe the deepest news. That was our last point in the shir yesterday, and that is what? That, if this is the case, it means that in ultimate reality, there's nothing that can really create a mechitza shel barzel, a mechitza, a partition between you and the essence. Meaning, if Hashem chooses the relationship, and He chooses the relationship, He wants the relationship with you. That's the whole yesod of everything. Bereishis b'shvil ha'Torah chayev adam loymar b'shvili nivra ha'olam bonem atem l'Hashem elokeichem ahafti eschem amar Hashem avos olam aftonu haboichem ha'misol ba'ava ata v'chartonu, etc. I want the relationship. So if I want the relationship, ultimately nothing could stand in the way of that relationship. What is our greatest? If I were to ask each and every one of you to describe, what is the greatest barrier that stands between you and ultimate vakus in truth at any given moment?
Myself.
Huh?
Myself.
Okay, that's the usual suspect. But describe abyssal. What did you say?
Perception.
Your perception. Your perception that what?
It's a Gashmi world.
That's not going to
Say finish.
That I'm on the same plane as, that it's a level playing field, that I am capable of perceiving it like I can perceive.
So let me, perception. What do we mean perception? The Gemara says in Adarim, Ein oni ela b'deya, Ein asher ela b'deya. Wealth and poverty is always about perception. The Gemara is not trying to say that there's no wealthy people and no poor people. The Gemara knew very well that there were people who had money and there were people who didn't have money. They even have a mitzvah called Matanas Lavyainen because there were people who didn't have money. Right? Just say you're rich in your mind, you're poor in your mind. I mean, I know it's it's nice to say, it's all in your mind, but sometimes it's also in your bank account. It's not only in your mind. Sometimes, yesh oimrim that it's reflected in the bank account, and certainly the bank doesn't know about the Gemara in the Darim. I tried to explain them once. But somehow they didn't learn the Gemara. They never got the memo. They don't learn Daf Yomi, unfortunately. Not yet. For them, Usher and Ani, you have to actually send a check, not...
So be able to be put on a deposit slip.
Yes. But there's a very important idea in Usher al-B'day and al-B'day, and that has to do with the idea of perception. What do we mean by perception? That wealth and poverty ultimately has to do with our experience of things. Remember, I want to just address this very briefly. How we don't live in reality. We live in our perception of reality. I'm not sitting, are you sitting at the shir? Or you're sitting in your perception of the shir? Do we ever even touch reality? We touch reality always through perception. I'm talking to you, I'm thinking, I put you in context. I think about you in a certain way, and that's how I access you. I can't access things without awareness. But here's the challenge. The moment I'm aware of it, it's already not it. It's my awareness of it. So in life, we access everything through awareness, and we're aware of two things. First of all, ourselves and the one we're talking to. And both distort truth. Because when I'm in a relationship with you, the first thing I ask myself is, where am I in this relationship? And we're always judging where we are in a relationship. Most of us. We're very self-conscious. I'm this. I'm in the mood of you, I'm not in the mood of you. I like you, I hate you. You're the best thing in the world, you're the worst thing in the world. I'm threatened by you, I'm not threatened by you, I'm bored. It's always my perception of where I am in the relationship. I'm worthy, I'm not worthy, I'm capable, I'm not capable. And of course, where you are. It's my perception of you. So it's basically my perception of self meets your perception of self. That's why people say, my people will call your people. So two people never meet. I don't know of two people who ever met. Whenever you meet somebody, be honest. I'm not meeting you. My perception of me thinks that it's meeting my perception of you. And somehow that's called a meeting. But what?
What if you make yourself aware not to?
But that itself, so now you're busy making yourself aware that you're not busy perceiving. So you're perceiving that you're not perceiving.
That becomes the reality.
Right? That becomes our reality.
But that is what we call people.
You're right. We don't call people
That's
people.
who I-
That's true. We call people images, pictures. We take pictures of people. Especially it's true when you have a deeper relationship, more permanent relationships with people, like in marriage or with children. You're already in a box. I come home at night, you come home at night, I already know, I know you for 29 years, I know you for 17 years, I know you for 13 years. You're not changing, I'm not changing. We just continue the play. It's just the next scene, and usually every marriage has around 29 scenes, and they just repeat themselves over 50 years.
So why do you say it's a result of Judaism and that's not illusion, that there's no illusion? That is what you're saying, my perception.
So let's realize, everything is the world of perception. The world of Atzmos means not the world of perception. The world of core. The world of core reality. Core reality. So now if we speak about a spiritual experience, any crisis, any challenge we have is always our perception that we're unworthy. For example, a person says, me, I'm not interested. Me, I'm not this type. Me, I'm dealing with this. Me, do you know how much anger I have in me? Me, do you know how much trauma I have in me? Me, do you know how much pain I have in me? And these are real experiences that I'm perceiving, and that's how I bring myself into life. So it becomes almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. Once a person could appreciate this idea that the Balatanya is addressing, it means that I could acknowledge that that's all perception. The only truth happening at any moment of existence from the perspective of Atzmos is that you're completely one with the core of all reality, with the core of infinity, without even the need to occupy any space outside of it, like the solar ray like the ray of light in the solar core. That is the truth of this moment, the truth of every single moment, no matter your circumstances, no matter your past, is that you are completely one with Hashem. That means the greatest lie you can tell yourself in the world is...
Not a perception.
Huh? That's not perception.
That's the only thing that's not.
Yeah. That's the only thing. Everything else is my mind playing a lot of tricks with me. Now those tricks are powerful. And trust me, those tricks have lots of proofs. They'll tell you your whole life story and they'll prove that you're a loser. They'll prove that you're a sinner. They'll prove that you're horrible. They'll prove everything they want to prove about you. And what do? They create obstructions. What is the Alter Rebbe teaching us here? The Alter Rebbe is teaching 1 second. He said, I don't understand. If all of life, even divine energy, is batel, legabe the core, so now you think your trauma or your pain actually can block you from God? When you go into this state, nothing can block. Nothing can block.
God not, but from other people, yes.
The same the situation. From my perspective, if I could come into that space, right? So the truth of this moment is that I am connecting with you without anything, without any preconceived and defined notions, expectations, and experiences. The person may not be in that state. The person may not reciprocate that, which is also part of that. That's also part of reality. That's fine. But what this means is that there's never a chatzitza. There's nothing. We always live in a world of chatzitza. We always tell ourselves, and especially with young people, this is such a challenge. I am the lowlife. I am, as a Bacha told me yesterday, I am the scum of the earth, he says. Rabbi, you don't know me. If you would know me, you would know how dirty and filthy I am. Right? But I'm not talking about what people say, I'm talking about an internal perception. I am the miserable person. I am the wounded soul. I am the wounded soul. People love those labels.
But that comes from what people had told him before.
Or from experiences that were very painful, no question. This is not about judgment of anybody. This is not judgment. I told you many times, these Maimarim don't judge. They describe which state of reality you're in. That's it.
The best way to touch this is when you're a child, because then you don't have any perception, and that's the core of your life.
If only.
No, meaning
Yes, in the womb of your mother. If you could have learned this in the womb of your mother, it would have been good. Yeah, you actually did, huh?
Even a 7, 8-year-old child.
Yes, of course. It's much. Of course.
You don't have to
Yes. But what about somebody who got educated and every day of his life he heard the same message? You want to tell us again what the message was? You want to tell it us in Yiddish?
He doesn't seem to be worried about the fact that some people could use this as a crutch. He's like you said yesterday, he's full of Abbas Yisrael, it was his raison d'etre, but he's not really worried about that, but you can use this as a crutch. No, I'm not a low life, whatever I did, but I'm still connected to the Eibishter.
If it's used as a crutch, ultimately it's not used. It becomes completely disingenuous because it's a complete distortion, and the person really is not saying anything, because this doesn't create laziness. It creates infinite empowerment. And if it produces fear to correct my wrongdoings, to be accountable, to say I'm sorry, to do things differently, it means I'm just creating a complete hallucination of a dream that's completely not connected to what he's saying here. No chatzitza means there's really no chatzitza. So that also means that if I need to go over to you and say, I'm sorry, I behaved like a real idiot yesterday. That also, it's fine. I'm completely fine with that.
It doesn't change who I am.
Yeah, and this is the only truth of every moment.
So why is it called chelik elakaim? It should be like more than just a chelik.
Why is it called then chelik elakamimal? Because chelik elakamimal is already talking in a world of consciousness. In a world of consciousness, you say it's a chelik elakamimal.
It's exactly like we said about Akudim last 2 weeks.
Yes.
Exactly the same concept.
Chelik elakamimal is big, but it's already in a world of consciousness, so you say chelik. Here he's talking. Huh? So the Shalom Mendel is asking how we connect to that. That's already a wrong question. You don't have to connect to it. That's it. The problem is we disconnect from it. We disconnect from it because we live in shadows. We live in perceptions. Now I know this is strange vocabulary. Like, so what should we do? Stop thinking? Yeah. Yeah. Today everyone is into mindfulness. Mindfulness is beginning to scratch the surface of basically stop calling yourself your thoughts. Everybody is busy with their thoughts and they think that is them. Really, thoughts are not you. They're not you. They're your description of the world. All thoughts come with descriptions. We're always judging everything. That's what thoughts do. That's part of it. That's what Trachgut V'Zayin means. Trachgut V'Zayin means core reality connects to core reality. So thoughts are very, very powerful in both ways. Extremely powerful in both ways. But thoughts are always called levushim. Why a levush? A levush, never call yourself a levush. Imagine you start saying, I am this shirt, I am this tie, there's nothing else. You see this tie? This is me. Sham tehei misasi, sham teik, for us, like it says by Arya Miklat. That's a tragedy. Huh? I am the redhead, I'm the gingy, as we spoke about with anti-Semitism.
The greatest lie we can say is...
The greatest lie that we tell ourselves is that we are liars, that we're lowly, that we're horrible, that we're detached. That's the greatest lie. It doesn't mean I didn't make mistakes. It doesn't mean I didn't sin. I could have done yesterday some terrible things, right? But what's the perspective now? Let me explain to you. The reason I sinned yesterday is because I actually didn't realize this. If I will have realized how close I am, I wouldn't have sinned. For two reasons. I wouldn't have wanted to. I also wouldn't be able to. I also wouldn't do anything for me. We sin to fill a void. People, the Gemara says, Ein adam chayte v'loy loy. People don't sin stam. They sin to fill a void. We need enjoyment. We need pleasure. We need distractions. Why do we need to fill a void? Why do we have a void? What are you filling a void from? You fill a void from. You feel an emptiness. What's the emptiness that you feel? You feel that you're detached. You're looking for something. So this one eats, this one drinks, this one sins. Yes, that's the problem. You perpetuate that perception.
No, in reality, not in Lavosh.
Yeah, in reality, but again, what aspect of you sinned? What aspect of you sinned? In Atzmos, you didn't sin. You understand? What allowed you to sin was your perception of your separation from Atzmos. That's where the Gemara says in the Saita, Ein adam over Aveda elim kein nichnas boy. Ruach shtus. The first Ruach shtus is that you're a shaita. That's the first spirit of insan, that you think you're a shaita.
Rabbi, we say every day, every day we acknowledge Hashem.
Tahira means impeccable, flawless, perfect. So now, yeah. So when that's what he says. When Ohr Hashem of Atzmusa is Nizgala. So now what happens? Take a look. So he says, "V'ro kol basar be'enei haseichel agashmi ke'elokenu yiyeh b'chinas zeh kanal." All flesh, in their mind's eye, but which mind? The physical mind will see Elokeinu not as by Yom Ahu, the beginning of the Mayim, Hasta Panabeimohu, but Hein Elokeinu Zeh Kanal. Vizgalu Zeh Yiyeh b'tachtoinim dafka lamata. And don't think Atzmus is going to be expressed elsewhere. It's going to be here in Tachtoinim. K'may Shomer Razal al Pasuk Ke'eis Yomer LeYaakov LeYisrael Ma'pal Keil, from Bilam's prophecy. So the Chazal say on the Pasuk, now at this time it would be told to Yaakov and to the Yisrael, Ma'pal Keil, what did God do? So Chazal say, Shemalachi Asharis Yishalu Zois L'Tzadikim. The Malachim will ask to Tzadikim, Ma'pal Keil. What did God do? B'makim shoyim malachi asharis oimrim ayim ekayim kvoidei yoimrim aloi chalaretz kvoidei. Instead of them saying ayim ekayim kvoidei, where is he? They're going to say maloi chalaretz kvoidei. His covet fills the presence of the earth. V'zeu eishes chayil ateres baila. We say in Mishlei Friday night, the woman of valor is the crown of her husband. Sha'or Hashem amizgala ba'achshav nikra baila. The light of God that the woman, the feminine, experiences now is called her husband. In the future, Eishes Chayil will become Ateres Baila. The woman will become the crown of her husband. L'chein ksiv, therefore the pasuk says in Amos, Nafla loisasif kum psulas Yisrael. Loisasif kum psulas Yisrael. Literally, it's a very negative nevuah. The Median of Israel fell, she won't rise up again. She fell into the abyss. He says, no, Pirish, lo yiyeh shayach l'bchinas kima v'aliyah ki yiyeh Ohr Hashem begilir rav lamata dafka. She won't be able to get up, because she won't be able to go higher. Higher you could go in Rosh Hashanah. Today I'm here, tomorrow I'm there. In this place of complete oneness, there's no kima and aliyah. You can't get higher from the mata. You're not going away. It's Eishes Chayil Ateres Baila. Dafka in this world, there will be the Gili of Atzmus, so therefore it becomes even higher than Baila. Baila represents the divine energy that inspired the woman throughout Golus. Once Atzmus is revealed in this world, now the Eishes Chayil down here is Ateres Baila, becomes the crown of all the divine energy that was expressed as Mamali and Soiviv. Therefore, Loi Soisif Kum. She can't rise anymore. Why can't she rise anymore? Because there's no greater kima than this. There's no greater aliyah than this.
If it's such a gewaltig pasuk, they should have taken it out of Ashrei. They should have left it in. This is the pasuk they took out of Ashrei.
Nun, the nun.
The nun they took out of Ashrei.
It's not
A good shaila, huh?
Why is it called matter? The Gilir of matter. It's not matter.
No, because this is the world that we're inhabiting. In our perception now, this is mata. This is mata. V'hainu, and the reason is because darkness can be transformed into light. V'loyle kafil esitrachre belvad levatl mulachniim kamei b'shar golos. T'ksiv l'makim mitzrayim b'vcheireim v'goymer v'yarig malachim adirim v'goymer. Raki gam oz epoch halamim sofa brura v'holchu amim rabim la'oirich. The key differences between the term, what he calls ikafia sitrachre and ishapcha sitrachre. Ikafia sitrachre means you subdue the other side. From the word koifa, force, compel. Ishapcha chashaycha l'noira means you transform the darkness into light. It's two very different experiences. In one, I'm struggling with a negative energy, but I subdue it. I prevail over it. I confront it and I rule it. That's called I'm koifa noisa. And a simple example would be I'm struggling with a terrible, terrible instinct or addiction or craving, and I have to say no. That's called iskafia sitracher. It's a great thing. This is l'makim mitzrayim b'vchaneim v'yarig malachim adirim. But then there is ishapcha chashaychel. Ishapcha chashaychel means you reveal that there's no darkness. The darkness is transformed into light because there's no darkness, and that's the difference. In the world of mamali and soiviv, it allows for perceptions of identities that are very dark. And the best you can do is you become aware of God and you subdue them, you fight them, you confront them. In the world of Atzma, so to speak, here, the darkness is transformed into light. There's no other side. There's no other dimension. Because it's Ki'ilu Ein Sham Olam Esklal. That's why it says, Bala Asid Lave, all the nations will be transformed. The entire world will be redeemed. In other words, in the ultimate vision of Judaism, no person is left behind. No creature is left behind. No force is left behind. No element is left behind. It's not like we come here again to the issue of Jews and non-Jews. The polarity of the Jew versus the non-Jew, and the non-Jew as being this hopeless creature. This is a very limited perception of Yiddishkeit. Yeah. In the ultimate recognition of reality, as epochel amim safa brura. Every member of the human race, and really every creature of the universe, is part of it. It's part of the same oneness. And therefore, this is not the skafia, this is his hapcha. So la'asid lavoy, when hine elekenu zeh, what's hine elekenu zeh? The ani Hashem loisha nisi will be expressed. There's nothing that blocks it. There's nothing that doesn't fit into it. There's no person or situation that can be said, oh, you're unredeemable. This is out. You fell too low. Like people will say, I'm too low. I'm the lowest of the low. You're not so low. I'm the lowest of the low. In the world of Ishapcha Chashaychel and Nahira, all Choshech becomes transformed. Why does all Choshech become transformed? Because when this state of reality is revealed, one sees that there is no darkness. There's no Choshech. So the Choshech is transformed into light. V'hinei me'ein zeh haya hanes shel Purim. Something of this happened on Purim. Usually, in various salvations of history, the tyrant loses. The dictator gets defeated. Here, Achashverosh remains in his full power after the story of Purim. So Achashverosh's heart is transformed. Hu atzmei amar v'atem kisva l'Yehudim katoiv b'einecha. Hapesha as hapesha, the same mouth that said to Haman, do whatever you want with this people. The same mouth that said to Haman, said to Mordechai and Esther, write for the Jews the way you wish. The same words he told Haman, katoiv b'einecha, and he told Mordechai and Esther, katoiv b'einecha. You're right. So on one level, the Gemara says, Melech hafcha fan haya. He was a spineless king. As the Gemara says, he killed his wife for his friend, and then he killed his friend for his wife. That was Achashverosh. On a deeper level, what's being reflected in the story of Purim is Shu Inyan Ishapcha Chashaychel Nahira. It's basically the transformation of Achashverosh himself. Melech Hafcha Fan Haya, we teaches, he's a king who flip-flop. He teaches from the word Ishapcha. He's the Melech who introduced the first time the concept of Ishapcha Chashaychel Nahira. The concept of transformation.
And remember, it never says Achashverosh here. It only says Hamelech.
Hamelech. Yeah, Hamelech.
It says Tapucha is saying, on the Jewish people.
Not you mean Hazinu.
Hazinus is key.
Dor tapuchos
Dor
hema.
tapuchos hema.
It's a people that knows how to transform things.
Which means they could.
Yes, hapcha. V'nigla kvoid Hashem lamata v'makam ha'choshech dafka. The v'nigla Hashem was where in the place of choshech. In the place of choshech, in the place of Achashverosh who was choshech, over there you had a gili. It wasn't that the gili kvoid Hashem happened by subduing him, by eliminating him. That would not transform darkness. That would just eliminate it. It would they reject it. And that's a oneness type of moment. What here is, there's a certain form of transformation. So me'ain, the gili of la'asad love, you already have in Purim, that there was something of transformation that happens in the place of darkness itself. You reveal that ultimately, darkness is really another form of light. And that's why the darkness can be transformed. It's not you throw it away, you reject it, you destroy it. That's one process of existence. You have to throw it away. That's iskafia. You have to get rid of it. It's garbage. A deeper component is you have to be able to reveal the inside story of the darkness itself. That choshech is really a distorted version of light. This can only be done with tzaddik ha'atzmus. Tzaddik ha'atzmus, you could reveal that in the choshech is really a form of light, even though it's eclipsed. So therefore, when you reveal the light, you don't reject the choshech fakert. You sublimate it. You transform it. You metamorphosize it. Because the choshech itself was really another form of ohr. That's a whole different type of experience. It's two different phases in the world. One phase is where I reject, I expel, I throw out the psoilus, I throw out the choshech, iskafia. I tell myself this is not good, get rid of it. And that's phase one, and you can't get to phase two without phase one. Phase two is where you go deeper and you see that those very forces were really containing some powerful secret of redemption. They themselves contained a very deep light that you have to expose. You have to be able to reveal what's inside of it. Sarah is Isis Tzoyhar, the Baal Shem Tov says. Sarah is the same letters like the word Tzoyhar, which means a window. In Hebrew, we once said the word for a breakdown in modern Hebrew is mashber. Rashi brings in Shmois that the word mashber means a birthing stool. A birthing stool. So what's a breakdown? Is a breakdown a breakdown? Sadly, a breakdown is a breakdown. A breakdown is also a mashber. Every breakdown is a birthing stool. In other words, it's the genesis of a new reality. It's a reality that emerges from a place of choshech, from a place of darkness. But that means it's a harbinger, it's a catalyst, it's a springboard for a new reality. It opens me up to new horizons. That means in life, when a person has choshech, there's two ways of looking at it. One is, this is the most horrible thing in the world, and I'm going to fight it, which is big. There's a deeper element, and that is, let me try to find what's inside here. What is the hidden light inside? I want to be able to find what is the light that's inside of this. When you reveal that, what happens is you reveal that there was never fragmentation. There was really unity. It was all part of one unity. That's how it's expressed in practical terms, that even the darkness becomes part of the light. So in the world before La'asid Lavoy, there's compartmentalization. That's how you deal with it. It's called war. War. And then there is Pada B'Shalom Nafshi, the concept of a Holchu Amim La'oirech, or the concept of Az Epech Al Amim Safa Brura Likre Kulam B'Shem Hashem Lavde Kulam Shechem Echad, that the Choshech itself will be transformed into.
Rabbi, last year you spoke the first Rashi with this contradiction, Achashverosh.
Who B'Rishon Mitchilase Vat
How does
Seifa.
this stem with what the Rabbi just said? It sounds like he had a transformation where the first Rashi seems to say it was consistent.
Listen, he doesn't say that Purim is Mashiach. He says, Me'ein Zehoya Hanei Shel Purim. There was a reflection of it in the sense that the same king, in all of his might, using his might to destroy the Jews, the very same might was employed to save and help the Jews. I'm not sure he's saying here that Achashverosh's soul went through this whole dynamic spiritual metamorphosis because he learned the Maimer and Torah about who he is. I don't think he's saying that. He's saying that the reflection of Purim, the way it came into the world, was there was a certain element of atzmus in the sense that the same power that was used to destroy, that power was used to build. Let's understand. To destroy, you need power. There's no destruction without power. If you can only learn how to use that power to rebuild, you know what power you have? The power of destruction to use to rebuild, there's no power like that. It has all the destructive elements in it. When you use that to rebuild, it's a whole different b'china.
Shlomo has a question.
There's an expression in chinuch. There was a yid told me, he went to a principal, and he asked about a certain child in the class. So he says, listen, im lo yoyel lo yazik. Meaning this school is not helping this kid, and this kid is not helping the school, but it's not mazik. It's not mazik. Fine, let him be. It's more or less, a kvetch bank, as we say in Yiddish. So I told him it's really the other way around. Im lo yazik, lo yoyel. If there's no element of hezek, if there's no rebellious spirit, so then probably lo yoyel. Fakert. When you see a force that's rebellious, that's where you'll have the greatest light. Because
It's not broken yet. You didn't break it.
There's no brokenness. It wasn't subdued. He didn't die, and there's a spirit there. Spirit has to be harnessed. It has to be harnessed. But when it's harnessed, it becomes even a greater light.
By using that phrase.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.